Winterfell's great hall held the cold the way old bones held pain. Even with the fires burning, the air tasted of snowmelt and damp wool, of iron and smoke. Men stamped their boots and muttered, and the sound ran along the stone like restless rats. Jon Snow stood at the high table without any crown on his head, though the room insisted on calling him king. The title sat on him like a wet cloak, heavy, clinging, and impossible to shrug off. Sansa Stark's face was composed at his side, calm as a frozen lake. Yet Jon Snow could feel the tension in her, the readiness to cut if someone threatened what they had bled to reclaim. Ser Davos Seaworth held the letter as if it might bite him. The seal was black wax stamped with a dragon. Not the red three-headed sigil, not the familiar Targaryen stamp Jon Snow had seen on old parchment in the Maester's Tower, but a dragon nonetheless, an ancient threat pressed into wax. "She answered," Ser Davos Seaworth said, voice low but carrying in the hall. He did not sound triumphant. He sounded wary. The northern lords leaned in like wolves scenting blood. Sansa Stark's gaze flicked to the seal. "Read it," Sansa Stark said. Jon Snow nodded once. Ser Davos Seaworth broke the wax and unrolled the parchment. The writing was neat, firm, the hand of someone used to command. Jon Snow watched Ser Davos Seaworth's eyes move across the lines, watched the man's mouth tighten. "Jon Snow," Ser Davos Seaworth read aloud, "who calls himself king in the north." A murmur rose, immediate, angry. A few men spat. The title was theirs, their pride, their defiance. Ser Davos Seaworth lifted a hand, quieting them by force of habit. "You requested a meeting," Ser Davos Seaworth continued. "You will have it. Come to Dragonstone. Bring proof of your claims and the Dragonglass you say you possess. Know this, the North is part of the realm I mean to rule. I will not treat with rebels as equals, but I will hear you." The hall erupted in low, furious noise. "She calls us rebels?" growled Lord Glover, face red with anger. "After what we've suffered? She's never set foot here," snapped another. "Never bled on northern snow." Lyanna Mormont's small face was fierce as she leaned forward. "If she wants to rule the north," Lyanna Mormont said, "she can come here and ask for it. We're not crawling south like beaten dogs." Tormund Giantsbane laughed into his tankard, froth clinging to his beard. "Dragon Queen wants wolves to kneel," Tormund Giantsbane said. "She can try. Dragons don't like the cold. Wolves do." Jon Snow felt all of it, the pride, the anger, the ache of a people who had been used and broken by southern crowns. He felt it because he shared it. He had died for it. He had come back with it still clawed into his ribs. Yet the memory of hard home sat in him like a stone in his stomach. The dead in the water, the dead on the shore, the dead rising because the night decided to stand up and walk. He looked at Sansa Stark. Her eyes were on him, steady, reading him. Sansa Stark knew him. She knew the way duty ruled him even when it hurt. "Is there more?" Sansa Stark asked Ser Davos Seaworth, voice quiet now. Ser Davos Seaworth hesitated. "Then read the final line. Do not mistake my willingness to meet for weakness." Lord Manderley's representative, a thick-necked man with a salt-stained cloak, snorted. "That's a threat wrapped in courtesy," he said. Jon Snow looked down at his hands. They were scarred. They had held Longclaw. They had held a dying man's face. They had held the rope around his own neck. He lifted his gaze to the hall again. "She's right about one thing," Jon Snow said. The noise dulled, not gone but listening. "I am not asking for a favor," Jon Snow said. His voice held the cold, held the iron. "I'm asking for help, and I'm offering the truth." Lord Glover's jaw clenched. "The truth won't stop her dragons," Lord Glover said. Jon Snow's mouth tightened. "No," Jon Snow said, "but it might stop the dead." That brought silence, sharper than any shout. Even those who mocked the stories of White Walkers knew the fear behind Jon Snow's eyes. They had seen his wounds. They had seen the way he woke from sleep as if choking on ice. Sansa Stark stepped closer to Jon Snow. "If you go," Sansa Stark said, and her voice did not tremble, but Jon Snow heard the worry beneath it. "You put yourself in her power." Jon Snow held her gaze. "If I don't go," Jon Snow said, "I put everyone's lives in the power of something worse." Sansa Stark's eyes flashed. "And what if she demands you kneel?" Sansa Stark asked. Jon Snow felt the question like a knife. Kneel, bend, give away what the North had fought for. He saw Robb Stark's body in his mind, headless, a wolf's head sewn on. He saw the red wedding's blood. He saw men screaming beneath a roof that should have been safe. "I won't kneel," Jon Snow said. The words came out flat, final. Lyanna Mormont's mouth curved, pleased. Tormund Giantsbane grunted approval. Ser Davos Seaworth cleared his throat. "Maybe," Ser Davos Seaworth said carefully, "we don't start by saying what we won't do. Maybe we start by getting what we need." Jon Snow looked at him sharply. "I'm not trading the North for Dragonglass," Jon Snow said. Ser Davos Seaworth held up both hands. "I'm not asking you to," Ser Davos Seaworth said. "I'm asking you to keep your head long enough to get what you need. A man can't fight the dead if he's dead." Jon Snow's mouth tightened. He hated that Ser Davos Seaworth was right. The wind cut across the dock, biting through cloth. Jon Snow pulled his cloak tighter and stepped toward the gangplank. Northmen watched him with hard eyes. Wildlings watched with curiosity and suspicion. They had followed Jon Snow because he had fought for them, because he had broken a wall inside his own people's hearts. Now he was going to bargain with a dragon queen. At the edge of the ship, Jon Snow paused and looked back at Whitehall. Rebor, the only true city in the north, warm with lights even under cold sky. He thought of Winterfell. He thought of Sansa Stark's face as she watched him leave. He thought of Bran Stark's strange, distant eyes. He thought of Arya Stark somewhere far away, a ghost with a knife. Then he stepped onto the ship. The boards creaked under his weight. The sea rolled beneath them like something alive. As the ropes were cast off and the sails caught the wind, Jon Snow stood at the rail and stared south, feeling the north recede behind him like a heartbeat fading. He did not know what waited at Dragonstone, only that he could not turn back. White Harbor smelled of fish and cold iron. The sea here was not the gentle blue Jon Snow had imagined as a boy staring at maps. It was a slate-gray beast, churning beneath a sky that never quite brightened. Ships bobbed at their moorings like restless horses, ropes creaking, sails snapping in the wind. Men loaded crates, salted meat, hard bread, barrels of ale, bundles of furs. The North did not waste. The North did not travel light. Even when going to ask for help, they brought what they could because pride demanded it and survival had taught it. Ser Davos Seaworth moved among the sailors with the ease of a man who belonged to the sea more than the land. He checked knots with quick fingers, spoke to captains with a quiet authority that did not need shouting. He had been a smuggler once. Now he was the kind of man kings listened to. Jon Snow stood at the end of the dock, cloak pulled tight, watching the gray sail ship that would carry them south. The ship's name was painted on the prow in white letters. Wind's Mercy. The name felt like an omen, and Jon Snow did not know whether it was good or cruel. "Could have been worse," Ser Davos Seaworth said, coming up beside him. "Could have been called the Queen's Kiss or something foolish." Jon Snow's mouth twitched. "This isn't a joke," Jon Snow said, though the harshness in his voice was more for himself than Ser Davos Seaworth. Ser Davos Seaworth sighed, looking out over the water.
"Nu, Ser Davos Seaworth agreed.
But if you don't laugh now and then, the fear eats you. I've seen it." He glanced at Jon Snow. "And you've seen worse." Jon Snow did not answer. He watched a gull wheel overhead, its cry thin and lonely. Somewhere beyond the horizon lay Dragonstone. Beyond that, King's Landing. Beyond that, everything Jon Snow had been trying to avoid thinking about since he'd returned from death. Crowns, wars, politics. Men killing men for titles while the dead waited. A heavy step sounded behind them. A stout man in rich furs approached with 2 guards, his cheeks red from the cold. He carried himself like someone who had never feared hunger. "King in the North," Wyman Manderly said, voice deep and formal, though his eyes held something sharper. My ships are yours. My men are yours. But I would be lying if I said I like you leaving. Jon Snow met his gaze. I don't like it either, Jon Snow said. Wyman Manderly's mouth curved slightly. That Dragon Queen, Wyman Manderly said. Do you trust her? Jon Snow stared at the gray sea. I don't know her, Jon Snow said. That's a no, Wyman Manderly said. Ser Davos Seaworth cleared his throat. We don't need trust, Ser Davos Seaworth said. We need Dragonglass, and we need her to believe the dead are real. Wyman Manderly snorted. People believe what suits them, Wyman Manderly said. Especially in the South. Jon Snow's jaw tightened. Then I'll show her, Jon Snow said. Wyman Manderly studied him for a moment, then nodded, as if satisfied with Jon Snow's stubbornness, if not his plan. Very well, Wyman Manderly said. Bring back Dragonglass. Bring back allies. And if she asks you to kneel... He paused, letting the words hang like frost. Jon Snow felt the old anger rise. I won't, Jon Snow said. Wyman Manderly's eyes glinted. Good, Wyman Manderly said. The North has knelt enough. As Wyman Manderly turned away, Ser Davos Seaworth leaned closer to Jon Snow. We may have to bend, Ser Davos Seaworth murmured. Not kneel, but bend. Words can be useful. Jon Snow looked at him sharply. I'm not trading the North for Dragonglass, Jon Snow said. Ser Davos Seaworth held up both hands. I'm not asking you to, Ser Davos Seaworth said. I'm asking you to keep your head long enough to get what you need. A man can't fight the dead if he's dead. Jon Snow's mouth tightened. He hated that Ser Davos Seaworth was right. The wind cut across the dock, biting through cloth. Jon Snow pulled his cloak tighter and stepped toward the gangplank. Northmen watched him with hard eyes. Wildlings watched with curiosity and suspicion. They had followed Jon Snow because he had fought for them, because he had broken a wall inside his own people's hearts. Now he was going to bargain with a Dragon Queen. At the edge of the ship, Jon Snow paused and looked back at White Harbor, the only true city in the north, warm with lights even under cold sky. He thought of Winterfell. He thought of Sansa Stark's face as she watched him leave. He thought of Bran Stark's strange, distant eyes. He thought of Arya Stark somewhere far away, a ghost with a knife. Then he stepped onto the ship. The boards creaked under his weight. The sea rolled beneath them like something alive. As the ropes were cast off and the sails caught the wind, Jon Snow stood at the rail and stared south, feeling the north recede behind him like a heartbeat fading. He did not know what waited at Dragonstone, only that he could not turn back. Dragonstone's morning was a thin thing, pale light leaking through cloud and rain like a reluctant confession. The painted table chamber felt smaller in daylight, less like a shrine and more like a room where decisions were made and mistakes became history. Daenerys Targaryen stood with her hands behind her back, shoulders squared. She wore a dark coat clasped with silver, the kind of clothing that reminded everyone she was a queen without needing jewels to shout it. Yet her eyes were restless, flicking from the table to the letters to the window as if searching for something that would settle her mind. Tyrion Lannister shuffled parchments, building order out of chaos because it was the only way he knew to keep fear at bay. Missandei of Noth moved through ledgers with quiet competence. Varys watched everything while pretending to watch nothing. Aegon Targaryen leaned over the painted table, his gauntlet hand resting on the carved outline of the north. His crown sat nearby on a stone shelf, ignored like a weapon laid aside. The candlelight made the metal look dull, almost humble, and that humility felt like another kind of threat. They'll arrive within days, Varys said softly, if the seas do not swallow them. Daenerys Targaryen's gaze snapped to him. Jon Snow comes, Daenerys Targaryen said, with a smuggler, with proof, he claims. And with pride, Tyrion Lannister said. Northern pride, the most stubborn kind. Daenerys Targaryen's mouth tightened. He calls himself king, Daenerys Targaryen said. As if the words were an insult she could not scrub off her tongue. Aegon Targaryen's gaze lifted. So did you? Aegon Targaryen said. Daenerys Targaryen's eyes flashed. I was queen, Daenerys Targaryen said. I freed cities. I broke chains. Aegon Targaryen's expression did not change. And he broke chains too, Aegon Targaryen said. Different chains. Same steel. Daenerys Targaryen felt irritation flare. It was one thing for Tyrion Lannister to caution her. Another for a dead conqueror returned from fire to question her authority. Tyrion Lannister glanced between them like a man watching two swords edge closer. If I may, Tyrion Lannister said carefully. Whether Jon Snow is king or not, he claims there is an enemy beyond all our squabbles. If he's lying, we lose nothing but time. If he's telling the truth, we lose everything. Missandei of Noth finished quietly. Daenerys Targaryen looked at Missandei of Noth and remembered the dead raven, its body small and stiff on the table. Winter was not a story told to frighten children in Meereen. Winter was a reality she had never known, a cold she had never faced. What do you believe? Daenerys Targaryen asked Varys. Varys's hands folded. I believe, Varys said, that men will say anything to gain advantage. But I also believe that Jon Snow has gained very little by sending that raven. If he wished only for power, he would have asked for gold, not Dragonglass. Daenerys Targaryen's jaw tightened. Dragonglass, Daenerys Targaryen murmured. She looked down at Dragonstone. The island was a wound of volcanic stone, black and sharp. The mines beneath them held the glass in abundance, blades waiting to be shaped. Grey Worm spoke then, voice flat. If it kills the enemy, Grey Worm said, we use it. Aegon Targaryen's gaze remained on the north. The enemy is not only dead men, Aegon Targaryen said. It is fear. It is the way fear makes men turn on each other before the true threat arrives. His eyes flicked to Daenerys Targaryen. How you treat Jon Snow will teach everyone what kind of queen you are. Daenerys Targaryen's chest tightened. He will kneel, Daenerys Targaryen said, and the words came out sharp, automatic. The realm was hers by right. The north was part of it. If she let one king stand, others would rise like weeds. Aegon Targaryen's hand tightened on the table. If you demand kneeling first, Aegon Targaryen said, you make fear your opening move. Daenerys Targaryen's eyes narrowed. And if I do not? Daenerys Targaryen asked. If I let him stand and call himself king, what do I teach the realm then? Aegon Targaryen's voice was low, controlled. You teach the realm that you are secure enough to negotiate, Aegon Targaryen said. You teach them that you do not need humiliation to feel strong. You teach them that your crown is not made of other men's throats. Daenerys Targaryen felt anger flare, because the words were true enough to hurt. Tyrion Lannister cleared his throat again, seizing the space between them. Perhaps, Tyrion Lannister suggested, we begin with what he came for, Dragonglass, the threat. If he convinces you, you give him what you can. If he does not, then you demand what you want. Daenerys Targaryen stared at the painted table. The north was so far away on carved wood, yet she could almost feel the cold of it. And if he refuses to bend? Daenerys Targaryen asked, more to herself than anyone else.
Aegon Targaryen's gaze met hers, steady.
Then you decide whether you want obedience, Aegon Targaryen said, or you want survival. Daenerys Targaryen's throat tightened. She hated that the choice felt real. Outside, the sea struck Dragonstone. Inside, the candle flames trembled. Daenerys Targaryen exhaled slowly, forcing her voice into calm. We will hear him, Daenerys Targaryen said, and we will not be provoked. Tyrion Lannister's relief was visible. Missandei of Noth's shoulders eased. Aegon Targaryen nodded once, almost imperceptible. Then Varys spoke again, soft as silk. There is another matter, Varys said. The man we captured, the assassin. Daenerys Targaryen's eyes hardened. Bring him to trial, Daenerys Targaryen said. Aegon Targaryen's gaze sharpened, approving. Daenerys Targaryen felt the weight of it all settle onto her. The war, the realm, the dead, the living, the choices that would shape songs. And she thought with a strange, quiet fear, I wanted. A throne. I did not understand it was a cage made of responsibility. The mines beneath Dragonstone were older than the throne rooms above, older than names, older than the stories men told to make their lives feel less small. The stone walls glistened with damp, and veins of black glass cut through the rock like frozen lightning. Torchlight made the obsidian shimmer, sharp and beautiful, as if the earth had hidden stars in its bones. Daenerys Targaryen walked carefully, boots crunching on gravel. Grey worm soldiers held torches, their faces lit from below like carved idols. Tyrion Lannister moved beside her with cautious steps and an expression that suggested he would rather argue in a dry room than descend into the belly of a volcano. Aegon Targaryen walked as if he had been born in this dark. His gaze flicked over the stone with recognition. He touched a vein of dragonglass with a gloved hand, and the gesture was almost tender. "I remember when men feared this place," Aegon Targaryen murmured. "They called it cursed. They called it the dragon's throat." Tyrion Lannister exhaled sharply. "Still feels like a throat," Tyrion Lannister said. "If the mountain decides to swallow us, I'd like it noted that I strongly object." Daenerys Targaryen ignored him, eyes drawn to a small forge set up in a widened chamber. Heat shimmered above it. A young man stood there with a hammer in hand, his arms smeared with soot. His hair was dark, his face lean with the hard lines of someone who had lived in the world's harsher corners. He looked up as they approached, eyes widening as if he could not quite believe who walked into his cavern. "Your Grace," the young man said, bowing awkwardly. Daenerys Targaryen frowned, recognition stirring. "Gendry," Daenerys Targaryen said, tasting the name. "You're alive." Gendry blinked. "I," Gendry said, "alive. Mostly." He glanced at Tyrion Lannister, then at Aegon Targaryen, and his confusion deepened as if the world had added another impossible thing without warning. Tyrion Lannister looked at Gendry's hammer. "Good," Tyrion Lannister said. "We'll need thousands of those." He nodded at the Dragonglass. "He can shape it?" Gendry lifted the hammer slightly, pride flickering. "I can shape anything that can be shaped," Gendry said. "Give me time. Give me men. Give me iron for handles." Daenerys Targaryen's gaze shifted to the obsidian again. "We have the glass," Daenerys Targaryen said. "We will have the iron. We will have the men." Aegon Targaryen's eyes remained on the stone, as if listening. "And you will have need," Aegon Targaryen said softly. Daenerys Targaryen turned to him. "You speak as if you know this war," Daenerys Targaryen said. Aegon Targaryen's jaw tightened. "I dreamed it," Aegon Targaryen said, "when I was young, before I crossed the sea." He looked at the dragonglass vein. Cold, darkness, men with blue eyes who were not men, a wall of ice, a scream that sounded like winter cracking the world in half. His gaze lifted, distant for a moment. "I convinced myself conquest was glory, but beneath it, there was always this, an urgency I did not understand, only felt." Tyrion Lannister's face had gone pale. "You dreamt of White Walkers," Tyrion Lannister said, voice tight. Aegon Targaryen's eyes flicked to him. "Men call them different names," Aegon Targaryen said. "But yes." Daenerys Targaryen felt a cold thread run through her chest. She had thought Aegon Targaryen returned to teach her rule. She had not considered that he might be tied to the same threat Jon Snow claimed, that the return itself might be another piece of a larger, older pattern. "We'll make the weapons," Daenerys Targaryen said, to anchor herself in something tangible. She looked at Gendry. "How many can you make in a day?" Gendry hesitated, then spoke honestly. "A few dozen," Gendry said. "If I'm alone. More if I've help." Tyrion Lannister grimaced. "A few dozen," Tyrion Lannister repeated. "Against an army of the dead." He exhaled. "We'll need every smith in Westeros." Daenerys Targaryen's gaze sharpened. "Then we will bring them," Daenerys Targaryen said. Aegon Targaryen watched her for a moment, then nodded. "That," Aegon Targaryen said quietly, "is how a ruler thinks, not what can I burn, but..." What can I build? Daenerys Targaryen looked at the black glass again, at its cruel shine. Dragonglass, frozen fire, a weapon made of the same element as her dragons, yet brittle, shaped by human hands. It felt like a lesson in itself. Power could be held without destroying everything around it. From far above, a dragon's rumble rolled through stone, deep and restless. The sound made the miners pause, their faces tightening. Fear lived everywhere. Even here, Daenerys Targaryen straightened. "Work will begin immediately," Daenerys Targaryen said. "We will stockpile. We will arm the north." She paused, tasting the words. Arm the north. Ate a king who would not kneel.
Aegon Targaryen's gaze met hers, steady.
Daenerys Targaryen looked away because if she looked too long, she might admit how much the decision frightened her. Not because it was dangerous, but because it was different. It was a choice made without terror as the first step. The sea did not welcome Jon Snow. It slapped the ship with cold, angry hands, rolling beneath them like it wanted to tip them into its mouth. Wind bit at faces and cut through furs. Salt clung to lips. When Dragonstone finally rose out of the mist, it looked less like an island and more like a fortress grown out of volcanic bone. Black spires, jagged towers, carved dragons glaring down from stone. Jon Snow stood at the prow as they approached the docks, cloak snapping behind him. Ser Davos Seaworth watched the currents, eyes narrowed, as if reading a language written in foam. "Cheerful place," Ser Davos Seaworth muttered. Jon Snow did not answer. His gaze was fixed on the looming shape of Dragonstone, on the sense of old power in its stones. He had walked beneath the wall, he had seen castles built to defy giants, but this was different. This felt like something built to house monsters. As the ship bumped against the dock and sailors threw ropes, Jon Snow stepped down onto wet stone. The dock was black basalt slick with rain. His boots found purchase anyway. He had learned long ago to stand on uncertain ground. A line of soldiers waited, rigid and silent, unsullied. Their armor was dark, their spears upright, their faces calm and unreadable. They did not shift as Jon Snow approached. They did not blink. They looked less like men and more like a wall made of discipline. At the front stood Grey Worm, gaze sharp. Beside him waited Tyrion Lannister, shorter than Jon Snow, but carrying himself with the wary confidence of a man who had survived courts and cages. Missandei of Noth stood near Tyrion Lannister, hands clasped, eyes steady. Ser Davos Seaworth's breath caught. "That's him," Ser Davos Seaworth murmured, nodding at Tyrion Lannister. "That's Tyrion Lannister. He's Hand of the Queen, they say." Jon Snow did not take his eyes off Grey Worm. "And that's her soldier," Jon Snow said quietly. "The kind that doesn't run." Grey Worm stepped forward. "Jon Snow," Grey Worm said, voice flat. "Not a greeting, a statement." Jon Snow nodded once. "Grey Worm," Jon Snow said. He had learned names mattered. They turned strangers into something more human. Grey Worm's eyes flicked to Ser Davos Seaworth. "You," Grey Worm said. "Smuggler." Ser Davos Seaworth straightened as if he had been accused of murder. "Former smuggler," Ser Davos Seaworth said quickly. "Mostly reformed." Tyrion Lannister's mouth curved. "Welcome to Dragonstone," Tyrion Lannister said. "Try not to slip. The stones have a sense of humor." Jon Snow's gaze narrowed. "Where is Daenerys Targaryen?" Jon Snow asked. Tyrion Lannister's eyes flicked up to the towering steps that led into the castle. "Waiting," Tyrion Lannister said. "And I suggest you remember that you are in her home, surrounded by her soldiers, beneath her dragons." As if summoned by the word, a roar rolled overhead. Jon Snow's head snapped up. A shadow passed over the dock, vast, living. Wings beat the air, and the sound was like a storm breaking. Drogon circled above, black against gray sky, his body a moving mountain. The dragon's roar shook gulls from the air, sent sailors ducking, made even the unsullied spear tips tremble the tiniest fraction. Jon Snow's heartbeat thudded hard. He had seen giants. He had seen direwolves. He had seen the Night King raise his arms and make an army. Yet the dragon's presence was different. It was not cold dread. It was hot, primal terror, the kind that made every instinct scream to run.
Ser Davos Seaworth swallowed loudly.
7 hells, Ser Davos Seaworth whispered. Tyrion Lannister watched Jon Snow's face carefully, as if measuring how much fear showed. Impressive, Tyrion Lannister said, voice deliberately casual. She has 3. Jon Snow forced himself to breathe. He forced his gaze back down. I didn't come to admire her pets, Jon Snow said. Grey Worm's eyes hardened. Do not call them pets, Grey Worm said. Tyrion Lannister lifted a hand. Please, Tyrion Lannister said. Let's save the threats for later. We have a long climb. They led Jon Snow up the stone steps toward the castle. Water ran down the stairs in thin streams. Basalt walls loomed. Carved dragon heads watched, their mouths open, their teeth sharp. The air smelled of salt and something faintly sulfuric, like fire waiting beneath stone. Jon Snow climbed without complaint, though his legs ached from sea travel and cold. He kept his face blank. He kept his thoughts locked tight. He had learned in the Night's Watch that showing weakness fed predators. Yet as he climbed, he felt the weight of this place press against him. Dragonstone was not merely a castle. It was a reminder. Dragons had ruled this world once. Dragons could again. He thought of the north, of Winterfell, of children huddled by fires, of corpses in the snow. He told himself over and over, I'm not here to kneel. I'm here to save them. The doors of the great hall rose ahead, black wood banded in iron. Beyond them waited a queen who believed herself destined. And somewhere within those walls, if the whispers Ser Davos Seaworth had heard were true, waited something even stranger. A dead king returned. The hall was darker than Jon Snow expected, as if Dragonstone refused to let daylight enter without paying a toll. Torches burned along the walls, their flames bending in drafts that carried the smell of sea and stone. Dragons were carved everywhere, in pillars, in arches, in the very seat that waited at the far end like a creature crouched in readiness. Daenerys Targaryen stood before that seat, not on it. Her silver hair was braided back, her face calm, her eyes bright with a kind of controlled fire. She did not smile when Jon Snow entered. She did not need to. The hall itself was her smile, sharp and cold. Jon Snow kept his spine straight as he approached. Ser Davos Seaworth stayed beside him, hands open, a posture that said peace even when his eyes darted to spears. Tyrion Lannister watched Jon Snow closely. Varys watched more subtly, as if he were already cataloging how Jon Snow might be used or eliminated. Then Jon Snow's gaze snagged on the man standing near Daenerys Targaryen. Black and red armor. Crown, no, not now. The crown was absent, but the man's presence was undeniable. His hair was pale, his eyes dark purple, his face weathered by war and time. Jon Snow had seen many men who carried authority. This one carried it like old scars. Ser Davos Seaworth's breath caught. Jon Snow felt it beside him, that tiny involuntary sound of disbelief. Daenerys Targaryen's voice cut through the hall. Jon Snow, Daenerys Targaryen said. She let the title hang like a hook. You came. Jon Snow nodded once. Daenerys Targaryen, Jon Snow said. He did not bow. He did not kneel. He did not want to begin by giving away what he had come to protect. A flicker crossed Daenerys Targaryen's eyes. Annoyance, perhaps, or calculation. Her gaze slid briefly to Ser Davos Seaworth, then back to Jon Snow. You wrote to me, Daenerys Targaryen said. You spoke of Dragonglass. You spoke of a war I cannot win with fire. Her mouth tightened. You spoke as if you were not addressing your queen. Jon Snow felt tension coil in the hall. Unsullied spears did not move, but their stillness sharpened. Grey Worm's gaze was fixed on Jon Snow's throat, as if imagining how easily a spear point could find it. I spoke to a ruler, Jon Snow said. One who has power I don't. Daenerys Targaryen's eyes narrowed. And yet you call yourself king, Daenerys Targaryen said. I didn't give myself that title, Jon Snow said. My people did, because the last time they knelt to a southern crown, it got them slaughtered. The words landed like a slap. Murmurs rose. Tyrion Lannister's mouth tightened. Varys's eyes gleamed, sharp. Daenerys Targaryen's face remained composed, but Jon Snow could feel her anger rising beneath it like heat under ash. "You speak of slaughter," Daenerys Targaryen said, "and yet you rebel against your rightful queen." Jon Snow's jaw clenched. "Rightful," Jon Snow repeated, and the word tasted bitter. "Right doesn't matter when everyone's dead." A harsh sound came from the side. Olenna Tyrell was not present, but Jon Snow could almost hear her scoffing anyway. Pride and politics always found a way into the room. Daenerys Targaryen took a step forward. "You speak of death as if it is an argument," Daenerys Targaryen said. "Show me proof." Jon Snow reached into his cloak and pulled out a small leather pouch. He held it up. "Dragonglass," Jon Snow said. "From Dragonstone," he added, because irony was a blade too. "It's here, in these mines." Missandei of Notha's eyes flicked to the pouch. Tyrion Lannister's gaze sharpened. Grey Worm's face did not change. Daenerys Targaryen did not take the pouch. "A rock," Daenerys Targaryen said. "That proves there are rocks." Jon Snow's anger flared, hot. "It kills them," Jon Snow said. "The dead, the White Walkers. We've fought them. I've seen them." Varys spoke softly. "Many men have seen many things," Varys said. "In the dark, fear makes shapes." Jon Snow's gaze snapped to Varys. "Fear didn't make the dead rise at Hardhome," Jon Snow said. "Fear didn't make them tear my men apart. Fear didn't make the Night King lift his arms and bring them back." The hall tightened around the words. Even the torches seemed to burn quieter. Daenerys Targaryen's face flickered, the smallest crack. "Not belief, not yet, but interest. And what do you want?" Daenerys Targaryen asked. "Dragonglass, soldiers, dragons. You want me to abandon my war and fight yours." "It's not my war," Jon Snow said. "It's everyone's." Daenerys Targaryen's gaze hardened again. "And in return?" Daenerys Targaryen asked. "You offer me what exactly? Warnings? Stories? A promise that you are not lying?" Her voice sharpened. "You want me to risk my people and my claim for a threat you cannot prove to my satisfaction. And you stand before me without bending the knee." Jon Snow felt the moment tremble. This was where kings broke. This was where pride turned into blood. Ser Davos Seaworth stepped forward, hands raised. "Your Grace," Ser Davos Seaworth said, voice pleading without being weak. "We didn't come to insult you. We came because we have no other hope. The North is dying. The world is dying." Daenerys Targaryen's eyes slid to Ser Davos Seaworth, then back to Jon Snow. "Then kneel," Daenerys Targaryen said. The words rang in the hall like a bell. Jon Snow's jaw clenched. He felt the North behind him like a hand on his spine. He felt Sansa Stark's eyes in his mind, warning. He felt Lyanna Mormont's fierce pride. He felt the dead in the snow. "I can't," Jon Snow said. Daenerys Targaryen's gaze went cold. "Won't," Daenerys Targaryen corrected. Jon Snow met her eyes. "Can't," Jon Snow repeated, and the word was iron. "Not until my people are safe. Not until I know the crown you want won't become another noose." A sharp intake of breath rippled through the hall. Grey Worm's hand tightened on his spear, and then the man in black and red armor spoke. Aegon Targaryen's voice was low, oof, carrying the weight of something ancient. "Enough," Aegon Targaryen said. The hall stilled as if a hand had closed around its throat. Daenerys Targaryen's head turned sharply, anger and surprise flashing. Jon Snow stared at the man, unease crawling up his spine. Aegon Targaryen stepped forward, slow, deliberate. He looked at Jon Snow with eyes that felt like winter and fire combined. "You," Aegon Targaryen said, and there was no title in it, only recognition. "You have seen the cold." Jon Snow did not know how to answer. "Who are you?" Jon Snow asked because the question tore its way out. Aegon Targaryen's mouth tightened. not in pride but in certainty. Aegon Targaryen said. Ser Davos Seaworth made a sound half laugh, half choke. That's, Ser Davos Seaworth began. A dead man, Jon Snow finished, staring. Aegon Targaryen's gaze did not waver. So I was, Aegon Targaryen said. He turned his head slightly, looking at Daenerys Targaryen. If you want the North, you must understand it. They do not bend because you demand it. They bend when they believe you would die for them. Daenerys Targaryen's eyes flashed. Do not undermine me, Daenerys Targaryen said low. Aegon Targaryen's voice stayed even. I am not undermining you, Aegon Targaryen said. I am preventing you from feeding fear. Jon Snow watched them, caught between disbelief and the sharp awareness that this was a struggle for something larger than pride. Tyrion Lannister looked as if he might faint. Varys watched Aegon Targaryen with a careful, unsettled stillness, as if trying to decide whether this was a miracle or a weapon. Aegon Targaryen looked back at Jon Snow. You came to ask for weapons, Aegon Targaryen said. You should leave with them, not because you deserve them, because the realm needs them. Daenerys Targaryen's jaw clenched, but Jon Snow saw something shift in her face. Resistance, anger, and beneath it, a reluctant listening. You will show her, Aegon Targaryen said to Jon Snow. Not with words, with truth. He looked at Daenerys Targaryen again. And you will listen, not because you fear him, but because you fear the night that comes for all crowns. Daenerys Targaryen's throat tightened. Jon Snow felt the hall's tension shift, not vanish, but change shape. No one had won, but no one had bled. And that, Jon Snow realized with a strange, cold relief, was the first miracle of Dragonstone. The sea below Dragonstone was a mouth that never closed. It chewed the rocks, spit foam, and came back hungry again. Dusk laid bruised purple across the clouds, and torches began to burn along the walls, their flames trembling in the wind. Daenerys Targaryen stood on a stone balcony with her hands gripping the wet parapet. Water seeped into her gloves. She welcomed the cold, kept the heat inside her from exploding. Behind her, Tyrion Lannister waited like a man standing near a sleeping lion. He did not speak. He had learned, after all these days, to recognize when Daenerys Targaryen needed silence more than counsel. Aegon Targaryen approached without sound. His presence at her back was a familiar weight now, an old shadow that refused to leave. You embarrassed me, Daenerys Targaryen said, without turning. Aegon Targaryen did not deny it. I spared you, Aegon Targaryen said. Daenerys Targaryen's fingers tightened on the stone. Spared me? Daenerys Targaryen snapped. He refused to kneel. In my hall, Aegon Targaryen's voice stayed calm, which made it worse. And you did not burn him, Aegon Targaryen said. That is not embarrassment. That is restraint. Daenerys Targaryen turned sharply. Her eyes flashed like struck flint. Restraint, Daenerys Targaryen said. Or weakness. Tyrion Lannister flinched slightly at the word. He did not step in. He watched Aegon Targaryen, as if fascinated and unsettled by a man who argued with a queen, as if queens were simply people making choices. Aegon Targaryen's gaze held Daenerys Targaryen's. Weakness is needing obedience to feel strong, Aegon Targaryen said. Strength is holding your ground without needing to humiliate. Daenerys Targaryen laughed, sharp and bitter. You conquered Westeros, Daenerys Targaryen said. You burned Harrenhal. You made men kneel at sword point. Do not preach to me about humiliation. Aegon Targaryen's jaw tightened. I made men kneel, Aegon Targaryen said, and I spent my reign chasing the consequences. He stepped closer. If Jon Snow kneels in that hall today, he will rise in the north tomorrow as a martyr. A king forced to kneel becomes a banner. Banners attract blood. Daenerys Targaryen's throat tightened. She hated that the logic made sense. She hated it because it stole the simple satisfaction of command. Tyrion Lannister finally spoke, careful. If Jon Snow is telling the truth, Tyrion Lannister said, then we need him, and he needs us. There's a way through this that doesn't require kneeling today. Daenerys Targaryen's gaze flicked to Tyrion Lannister. You always find a way that avoids kneeling, Daenerys Targaryen said coldly. Tyrion Lannister's mouth tightened. I find ways that avoid burning children, Tyrion Lannister said, voice quieter, but firm. Daenerys Targaryen looked away, out at the sea. Anger surged, then faltered, because Tyrion Lannister had said the words she feared most, burning children, and it dragged her mind back to the widow in the Great Hall, to the stonemason, to the fisherman. Aegon Targaryen's voice softened slightly. You wanted him to kneel, Aegon Targaryen said, because you wanted certainty. You wanted the realm to look at you and see unchallengeable authority. He paused. Why? Daenerys Targaryen's lips parted, then closed. She hated the question, felt like fingers pushing into a bruise. Because if I do not demand it, Daenerys Targaryen said finally, they will never stop testing me. Aegon Targaryen nodded once, as if he had expected this. They will test you anyway, Aegon Targaryen said. That is what men do to rulers. The question is what you do when they test you. Daenerys Targaryen's breath came slow. What would you have me do? Daenerys Targaryen asked. Aegon Targaryen's gaze moved toward the castle, where Jon Snow had been taken to chambers under guard. Not imprisoned, but not free. Give him Dragonglass, Aegon Targaryen said. Let him mine it. Let him arm his people. He held up a hand as Daenerys Targaryen's anger rose. Not as charity, as strategy, as promise. His eyes sharpened. Then make him owe you something that is not kneeling. Daenerys Targaryen frowned. Such as? Daenerys Targaryen asked. Aegon Targaryen's mouth tightened. Such as truth, Aegon Targaryen said. Such as alliance. Such as a vow to stand with you when you face Cersei Lannister. He watched her. A vow given freely has stronger roots than a vow forced. Daenerys Targaryen stared at him, and a strange thought flickered, unwanted. If this man truly is Aegon Targaryen, he is trying to make me better than he was. Tyrion Lannister shifted uncomfortably, as if that thought had crept into the air and he could feel it. Aegon Targaryen's gaze stayed on Daenerys Targaryen. You fear becoming your father, Aegon Targaryen said softly. So you grasp for control. Control feels like safety. Daenerys Targaryen's throat tightened. Do not speak of him, Daenerys Targaryen said. Aegon Targaryen did not retreat. If you do not speak of him, Aegon Targaryen said, then he speaks through you. The wind whipped across the balcony, tugging at Daenerys Targaryen's hair. Far below, waves smashed stone into foam. The sound was relentless, like a heartbeat that refused to stop. Daenerys Targaryen closed her eyes for a moment. When she opened them, her voice was quieter. He looked at you, Daenerys Targaryen said, like he didn't know whether to laugh or draw steel. Aegon Targaryen's gaze went distant. He has reason, Aegon Targaryen said. Men do not trust miracles. Daenerys Targaryen studied Aegon Targaryen's face, searching for cracks, for lies. Do you trust him? Daenerys Targaryen asked. Aegon Targaryen's eyes narrowed slightly, thoughtful. I trust his fear, Aegon Targaryen said. It is not fear of you, it is fear of what comes. He paused. And I sense... He stopped, as if measuring whether to speak the next thought aloud. Daenerys Targaryen's gaze sharpened. Sense what? Daenerys Targaryen demanded. Aegon Targaryen looked at her for a long moment. Nothing you can prove, Aegon Targaryen said. Not yet. His voice dropped lower. But blood speaks, even when men do not. Daenerys Targaryen's stomach tightened. She wanted to demand more, to tear the secret out of him. Yet something in Aegon Targaryen's tone warned her. Push too hard, and she would turn this lesson into another struggle for control. She exhaled slowly. Fine, Daenerys Targaryen said. He will mine Dragonglass. He will have his proof. She turned her head slightly toward Tyrion Lannister. And you will make sure he does not take liberties. Tyrion Lannister bowed his head slightly. Gladly, Tyrion Lannister said. I enjoy preventing liberties. Aegon Targaryen's gaze remained on Daenerys Targaryen. "And when he shows you truth," Aegon Targaryen said, "you will not let pride make your decision." Daenerys Targaryen's mouth tightened. "I am not ruled by pride," Daenerys Targaryen lied. Aegon Targaryen's expression did not change. "Neither was I," Aegon Targaryen said, and the quiet weight of the lie between them felt like another wave striking stone. The tunnels were colder the deeper they went, not because of air, but because of memory. Jon Snow held the torch high, the flame throwing light against stone that had not seen daylight in thousands of years. The walls narrowed, then widened into a cavern chamber where the rock had been carved by hands that were not human. Gendry moved ahead with the confidence of someone who had lived in dark places. He carried a second torch and a hammer slung at his belt. "Here," Gendry said, voice echoing. "This is what I told you." Ser Davos Seaworth leaned in, squinting. "Looks like a child scratching," Ser Davos Seaworth muttered. Jon Snow stepped closer, and the torchlight revealed shapes. Crude, yet unmistakable. A figure with antler-like branches. Children of the forest, small and sharp. Men with spears. Giants. And beyond them, tall thin forms with blades. Their eyes marked with pale circles, White Walkers. Jon Snow's stomach tightened. "This isn't a story," Jon Snow murmured. He felt it, the same cold certainty he had felt at Hardhome when the dead rose. The past had known the enemy. The past had fought it. The world had forgotten, and now it would pay. Footsteps echoed from behind. Jon Snow turned, hand instinctively shifting toward Longclaw's hilt, then stopped as Daenerys Targaryen entered the chamber. She wore a dark cloak, her silver hair braided. Missandei of Noth walked beside her, calm and watchful. Tyrion Lannister followed, his expression wary in the dark. And behind Daenerys Targaryen came Aegon Targaryen, moving like a shadow that belonged to the stone. Jon Snow's chest tightened again, the disbelief still sharp. The man looked too real to be a ghost. Yet ghosts did not walk with such weight. Daenerys Targaryen's gaze moved to the carvings, and Jon Snow watched her face shift. The queen's expression was controlled, but something in her eyes flickered. Curiosity, unease, a crack in certainty. "You wanted proof," Jon Snow said, voice rough. "This is it." Daenerys Targaryen stepped closer to the wall, torchlight gilding her cheekbones. She traced one carved line with a gloved finger, careful, as if the stone might bite. "Who made this?" Daenerys Targaryen asked. "The children of the forest," Jon Snow said. "The ones who lived here before men." He swallowed. "They fought beside the first men against the dead." Tyrion Lannister stared at the carvings, face pale. "A charming little bedtime tale," Tyrion Lannister said weakly. "Except, they wouldn't carve this unless it mattered." Missandei of Noth's eyes were wide. "They remember," Missandei of Noth whispered. Aegon Targaryen stepped closer, studying the wall with an intensity that made Jon Snow's skin prickle. Aegon Targaryen's hand hovered near the carvings but did not touch. His face was hard, unreadable, but his eyes were distant, as if seeing not stone but a dream remembered. "I have seen this," Aegon Targaryen murmured. Daenerys Targaryen turned sharply. "In your dreams," Daenerys Targaryen said. Aegon Targaryen nodded. "In fire," Aegon Targaryen said. "In sleep, in the belly of prophecy." His gaze slid to Jon Snow. "And in him." Jon Snow's jaw clenched. "What do you mean?" Jon Snow demanded. Aegon Targaryen looked at Jon Snow as if weighing whether speaking would cut too deep. "The North marks men," Aegon Targaryen said finally. "It leaves ice in their eyes." His voice dropped. "But there is fire in you too." Jon Snow felt anger rise. Anger at being read like a page. "I'm not here for riddles," Jon Snow said. Daenerys Targaryen lifted her chin, eyes still on the wall. "If this is true," Daenerys Targaryen said, and Jon Snow heard the struggle in her voice, the queen fighting the woman. "Then the war I came for is small." Jon Snow's chest tightened. "It's not small," Jon Snow said. Cersei Lannister will kill thousands, but the dead will kill everyone. Daenerys Targaryen's jaw tightened. And you want my dragons? Daenerys Targaryen said. Jon Snow met her gaze. I want your help, Jon Snow said. Your dragons, your men, your ships, whatever you can spare. His voice hardened. Not because you owe me, because you owe the living. Tyrion Lannister glanced at Daenerys Targaryen, then at the wall again, as if the carvings might speak the answer he needed. If the dead are real, Tyrion Lannister said softly, then the throne is a distraction. Daenerys Targaryen's eyes flashed. The throne is my right, Daenerys Targaryen said automatically, then stopped. The words sounded thinner here, beneath ancient stone and carved warnings. She inhaled, steadying. But I am not blind. Jon Snow watched her, wary. He had seen rulers turn truth into a weapon. He had seen men use prophecy to justify cruelty. He did not know yet whether Daenerys Targaryen would be different. Daenerys Targaryen turned to Gendry. How much Dragonglass is here? Daenerys Targaryen asked. Gendry's eyes widened. Enough to arm every man in the north, Gendry said. Enough to arm every man in Westeros, if we can dig it and shape it. Daenerys Targaryen's gaze went back to Jon Snow. Then you will mine it, Daenerys Targaryen said. You will take as much as you can. Her voice tightened. And you will show me more. I want to see what you claim with my own eyes. Jon Snow stared at her, surprised by the concession. You mean to come north, Jon Snow said. Daenerys Targaryen hesitated, a heartbeat that felt like a crack in stone. I mean to know, Daenerys Targaryen said. Before I commit my people to a war I do not understand. Jon Snow nodded once. He did not like it. He wanted immediate help. But he had asked for truth to be believed. Perhaps this was the price. Show me. Aegon Targaryen's voice came softly, carrying weight. She will come, Aegon Targaryen said. Not as a promise, but as a statement of belief. Daenerys Targaryen's eyes flicked to Aegon Targaryen, irritated, then softened slightly. We will see, Daenerys Targaryen said. Jon Snow looked again at the carvings of White Walkers, at the crude shapes that had waited in darkness for centuries. The enemy did not care whether queens believed. The enemy would come regardless. He turned back to Daenerys Targaryen, voice low. When you see them, Jon Snow said, you won't need anyone to tell you what to do. Daenerys Targaryen held his gaze, and for the first time Jon Snow saw something in her eyes that was not pride. Fear. Not fear of him, not fear of kneeling. Fear of the night. The trial drew more people than Daenerys Targaryen expected. Word had spread fast through Dragonstone's servants and soldiers, through sailors and miners, through the Dothraki who listened at doors and the Unsullied who listened without showing it. A queen was going to judge a man who had tried to kill her. The question was not whether he would die. The question was how. The great hall smelled of wet stone and smoke. Torches burned higher than usual, their light throwing sharp shadows across the dragon carvings. Daenerys Targaryen sat again on the lower chair before the dragon-carved seat, refusing the height of a throne for this. Missandei of Noth sat nearby with parchment and ink, recording each word like it mattered, because it did. Tyrion Lannister held scrolls of testimony, his face tight with concentration. Aegon Targaryen stood to Daenerys Targaryen's left, still as a statue. His presence unsettled the room. Some stared openly. Some refused to look at him at all. Jon Snow watched him with narrowed eyes, as if waiting for the man to vanish like mist. Grey Worm marched the assassin forward in chains. The man's face was bruised, his eyes bloodshot, but hatred still burned in them like a fever. He spat on the stone floor and glared at Daenerys Targaryen. Dragon whore, the man hissed. A ripple ran through the crowd. Dothraki hands tightened on her rocks. Unsullied spears remained upright. Grey Worm's fingers twitched. Ready. Daenerys Targaryen's face did not change. Your name, Daenerys Targaryen said. The man sneered. Why? The man said. So you can remember it when you burn me? Daenerys Targaryen's voice stayed even. So the realm remembers it, Daenerys Targaryen said. So when men speak of justice, they speak of what happened here. The assassin's lips curled. Justice, the assassin spat. You came here with monsters. You'll call anything justice. Tyrion Lannister stepped forward slightly, scroll in hand. We have witnesses, Tyrion Lannister said. Guards who caught you climbing the wall. A kitchen boy who saw you bribing a servant. A sailor who recognized you from Blackwater Bay. He glanced at Varys, then back at the assassin. And a letter in your boot with Cersei Lannister's seal. The assassin's eyes flicked, betraying a flash of fear. Then he forced his sneer back into place. So what? The assassin said. I did my duty. Daenerys Targaryen leaned forward slightly. Your duty, Daenerys Targaryen said, was to murder. The assassin laughed. Harsh. Your duty is to conquer, the assassin said. You're the same. Daenerys Targaryen inhaled slowly. For a heartbeat, Jon Snow saw something in her. An urge old and violent. The temptation to end this with fire, to prove to everyone in the hall that her mercy was not weakness. Aegon Targaryen's hand did not touch her this time. He did not need to. His presence was reminder enough. Daenerys Targaryen straightened, voice firm. You will speak the truth, Daenerys Targaryen said. Who sent you, and who helped you inside these walls? The assassin's jaw clenched. He looked around the hall, perhaps searching for allies, for sympathetic faces. He found none. The Dothraki watched like wolves. The Unsullied watched like stone. The small folk watched with fear and fascination. Varys's gaze was a quiet knife from the shadows. I won't, the assassin said. Tyrion Lannister exhaled, frustration flickering. We can make him, Tyrion Lannister murmured under his breath. Jon Snow's jaw tightened. He had seen torture. He had inflicted pain. He knew what desperate men became when suffering was applied. Daenerys Targaryen's eyes narrowed slightly. No, Daenerys Targaryen said. The word cut clean. Tyrion Lannister blinked, surprised. Daenerys Targaryen stood. The crowd's breath held. You came to kill me, Daenerys Targaryen said. You failed. You are guilty. Her voice rose, carrying across the hall. But you will not be tortured in my name. You will not be dragged into darkness, so the realm whispers that I rule by cruelty. The assassin's sneer faltered. Then what? The assassin spat. You'll let me go? Daenerys Targaryen's gaze was cold now, but steady. No, Daenerys Targaryen said. You will die. She paused, letting the certainty settle. But you will die as a warning that reaches beyond fear. She turned her head slightly, looking toward Jon Snow, toward the northern men watching. This is what I mean by law, Daenerys Targaryen said. Not vengeance without thought. Not mercy without consequence. Judgment that can be spoken aloud without shame. The assassin's eyes widened, a flicker of something like panic. You can't, the assassin began. Daenerys Targaryen lifted a hand. Grey Worm stepped forward, holding the chain taut. You will be executed at sunset, Daenerys Targaryen said. Publicly, cleanly, and your death will be recorded. Your name will be recorded. Your crime will be recorded, so no one can twist it into a rumor. She leaned forward, voice dropping, sharp enough that the assassin's hate faltered. And the realm will know that if Cersei Lannister sends killers, she does not make me a monster, Daenerys Targaryen said. She only proves what she is. Silence held the hall thick as smoke. Then Aegon Targaryen spoke, low, rough, carrying across the torchlight. This, Aegon Targaryen said, is how you cut without burning the world. Daenerys Targaryen's throat tightened. She did not look at him. She did not want the crowd to see gratitude. Yet inside her, something shifted, something like a foundation stone settling into place. Jon Snow watched her, and for the first time since arriving, he felt a thin thread of cautious respect. The assassin was dragged away, cursing, but his curses sounded weaker now, swallowed by the certainty of what awaited him. As the hall began to empty, Ser Davos Seaworth leaned close to Jon Snow. She didn't burn him, Ser Davos Seaworth whispered. Jon Snow's gaze stayed on Daenerys Targaryen, on the way she stood straight as if holding herself upright against her own nature. No, Jon Snow said quietly. She didn't, and that, Jon Snow realized, might matter as much as any dragon. Night came with wind sharp enough to cut. The sea below roared like distant war, and the cliff path above it felt narrow despite the wide drop on one side. Torches lined the stone, their flames bending hard, shedding flickering light across wet rock. Jon Snow walked beside Daenerys Targaryen because she had requested it, or perhaps because she had needed it. Tyrion Lannister had offered to accompany them. Daenerys Targaryen had refused. Missandei of Noth had watched Daenerys Targaryen with quiet worry as she left. Grey Worm had insisted on distance, not absence. Unsullied shadows moved along the walls above. They walked in silence at first, the kind of silence heavy with things unsaid. Drogon perched on a high arch above the path, black against the night. The dragon's eyes glowed red in the torchlight, watching. Rhaegal and Viserion circled through low cloud, their shapes briefly visible when lightning flashed far out at sea. Jon Snow kept his gaze forward. He could feel Drogon's attention like heat on the back of his neck. Daenerys Targaryen spoke first. "You were right," Daenerys Targaryen said. Jon Snow glanced at her, surprised. "About what?" Jon Snow asked. Daenerys Targaryen's jaw tightened, as if saying the words cost her. "The throne is small," Daenerys Targaryen said, "compared to what you described." Jon Snow's breath fogged faintly in the cold. "It's not just what I described," Jon Snow said. "It's what I've seen." Daenerys Targaryen's gaze stayed forward, fixed on the path ahead like it was an enemy she could not look away from. "If I go north," Daenerys Targaryen said slowly, "Cersei Lannister will use it. She will strike while I am gone." Jon Snow's mouth tightened. "She'll strike anyway," Jon Snow said. "She's a queen who thinks cruelty is strength." Daenerys Targaryen's eyes flicked to him, sharp. "You speak as if you know queens," Daenerys Targaryen said. Jon Snow's mouth twisted. "I know people," Jon Snow said. "I know what fear does to them." Daenerys Targaryen's shoulders lifted slightly with a breath. "Fear," Daenerys Targaryen said, as if tasting the word. "Everyone tells me fear is the surest path." Jon Snow glanced at her. "And what do you think?" Jon Snow asked. Daenerys Targaryen's lips pressed together. For a moment she looked less like a queen and more like a woman who had been running her whole life and was suddenly asked to stop. "Fear is easy," Daenerys Targaryen said finally. "Fear makes people move." Jon Snow nodded once. "Fear makes people run," Jon Snow said. "Sometimes toward you, sometimes away." He paused, then added, "Sometimes into the arms of someone worse, just to escape you." Daenerys Targaryen's gaze hardened, then softened again. The wind tugged at her cloak, and for a moment her silver hair broke loose from its braid and whipped across her cheek like a pale lash. She pushed it back with gloved fingers, annoyed at the small loss of control. "I wanted you to kneel," Daenerys Targaryen said, voice quieter. Jon Snow's jaw clenched. "I know," Jon Snow said. Daenerys Targaryen's gaze flicked to him again. "It wasn't only pride," Daenerys Targaryen admitted. "It was fear." She said it like an admission of weakness, and Jon Snow felt something shift. A queen admitting fear was either a trap or a truth. "Fear of what?" Jon Snow asked, cautious. Daenerys Targaryen's throat tightened. "Fear of being laughed at," Daenerys Targaryen said. "Fear of being dismissed. Fear of becoming a story people tell about a girl who thought she could take a throne and failed." Her eyes flashed. "Fear of becoming my father." Jon Snow's breath caught. He knew the Mad King only in stories, but he knew madness. He had seen it in Ramsay Bolton's eyes. He had seen it in men who hurt for joy. "You're not your father," Jon Snow said, and the words came out rough because he did not know how to comfort queens. Daenerys Targaryen laughed softly, bitter. "Everyone says that," Daenerys Targaryen said. No one can promise it. Jon Snow held her gaze. You can, Jon Snow said, with what you choose. Daenerys Targaryen's eyes narrowed slightly, as if the simplicity of it offended her. Then she looked away, out over the sea, and her voice dropped. There are so many people here who watch me, Daenerys Targaryen said. Waiting, hoping, fearing. She swallowed. And now there is him. Jon Snow's gaze flicked toward the shadows behind them. He had sensed it, the presence watching from distance, still as stone. Aegon Targaryen stood back, half hidden, his face unreadable in the torchlight. Your ghost king, Jon Snow said. Daenerys Targaryen's mouth tightened. He's not a ghost, Daenerys Targaryen said, though her tone held uncertainty. And he has ideas. Jon Snow's gaze stayed forward. I don't care who he is, Jon Snow said. If he's real, he can bleed. If he's a trick, he can be killed. He paused. But he spoke like he believes me. Daenerys Targaryen's eyes flicked to him again. He does, Daenerys Targaryen said quietly. He says he dreamed of it. He says he came here because of it. Her voice tightened. He says the realm was forged for this war, not for crowns. Jon Snow felt cold spread in his chest. Not from the wind, but from the weight of fate pressing closer. Maybe, Jon Snow said, maybe the gods are finally done laughing. Daenerys Targaryen's mouth curved faintly, not quite a smile. Do you believe in gods? Daenerys Targaryen asked. Jon Snow's gaze went distant. He thought of the old gods in the weirwood faces, silent and watching. He thought of the Lord of Light and Melisandre's fire. He thought of his own death and return, the cold darkness and the sudden breath. I believe in what I've seen, Jon Snow said, and I've seen things that make gods feel possible. Daenerys Targaryen nodded slowly, as if absorbing. The torches hissed in the wind. Drogon shifted above, talons scraping stone. The dragon's eyes remained fixed on them. What? Fool, judging. Jon Snow felt his hand drift closer to Longclaw's hilt, not in threat, but in instinct. Dragons made instincts loud. Daenerys Targaryen stopped walking. Jon Snow stopped too, turning slightly. The sea roared below them. What do you want from me, truly? Daenerys Targaryen asked. Her eyes were sharp, searching. Not words, not vows. What do you want? Jon Snow held her gaze. I want you to come north, Jon Snow said. I want you to see the dead. I want you to believe before it's too late. He swallowed. And I want you to send what you can, even if you don't come. Dragonglass, men, food, anything. Daenerys Targaryen's throat tightened. And in return? Daenerys Targaryen asked, the queen returning like armor. Jon Snow's jaw clenched. He could lie. He could bend. He could offer something polished. Instead, he spoke truth because truth was all he had left. In return, Jon Snow said, I'll stand with you against Cersei Lannister. Not as your subject. His eyes hardened. As your ally. Daenerys Targaryen stared at him for a long moment. The wind tugged at her cloak. Lightning flashed far out at sea, briefly turning the world silver. Then Daenerys Targaryen exhaled, slow, controlled. An ally, Daenerys Targaryen repeated. Jon Snow nodded once. Daenerys Targaryen's gaze flicked upward to Drogon, then back to Jon Snow. If I help you, Daenerys Targaryen said, voice low, and the realm sees me turn away from my war for yours, they will call me weak. Jon Snow's mouth tightened. Then prove them wrong, Jon Snow said. Not with fire, with courage. Daenerys Targaryen stared at him, and something in her face shifted. Anger, pride, fear, all wrestling. Then slowly she nodded. I will see, Daenerys Targaryen said. I will come north, or I will send proof enough that I believe. Her voice hardened. And if your enemy is real, I will burn it. Jon Snow exhaled, relief sharp and painful. Thank you, Jon Snow said, and he meant it. Daenerys Targaryen's eyes narrowed slightly. Do not thank me, Daenerys Targaryen said. This is not mercy. This is survival. Jon Snow almost smiled, then stopped. Survival did not allow softness for long. Behind them, in the shadows, Aegon Targaryen watched without moving. The torchlight flickered across his face, making him look older than war, older than the castle itself. Jon Snow felt the man's gaze like a blade on his back, and for a heartbeat he wondered impossibly whether the dead king saw something in him that even Jon Snow did not know. Above, Drogon rumbled low, a sound that rolled through stone and salt air alike. The sea roared below, and somewhere far beyond the horizon, in darkness no torch could pierce, winter waited with open hands. Sunset bled across the sea like a wound that refused to close. The sky over Dragonstone burned in bruised reds and dull golds, and the wind came colder than it had any right to, as if the island itself were practicing for winter. In the outer courtyard, torches were lit in iron brackets, their flames flattened by gusts and flaring again when the air eased. The stone underfoot was wet, slick with old rain, and it gleamed as if polished for a ceremony. They gathered anyway. Sailors with salt crusted in their beards, miners with black dust in the lines of their hands, serving girls clutching shawls tight around their shoulders. Unsullied stood in disciplined lines that made the courtyard feel smaller, their spears upright, their faces calm. A handful of Dothraki leaned in the shadows like wolves denied a hunt, eyes bright with impatience. Jon Snow stood among the observers with Ser Davos Seaworth, both cloaked against the wind, both watching with a wary attention that did not blink. Grey Worm brought the assassin out in chains. The man stumbled as his boots hit the slick stone, then recovered with stubborn hatred. His face was swollen from the days in the cell, his mouth cracked, his eyes bloodshot. Yet when he saw Daenerys Targaryen, standing before the gathered crowd, his lips curled as if he still believed he had power.
Daenerys Targaryen wore no crown.
Her hair was braided back, the pale strands lifted by the wind like a banner. She stood on the same level as everyone else, neither elevated nor hidden, her dark coat clasped with silver. Missandei of Noth stood at her side with parchment tucked under one arm, ink sealed against the damp. Tyrion Lannister stood close enough to speak if needed, but his hands were empty, his posture tense. Varys lingered in torch shadow, eyes reflecting flame. Aegon Targaryen stood behind Daenerys Targaryen, not as a guard, not as a king demanding attention, but as a presence that the courtyard could not ignore. The torchlight made red glints dance along his black armor. His face was a hard plane of shadow and fire, his eyes deep and unreadable. Grey Worm stopped the assassin before Daenerys Targaryen and pulled the chain taut, forcing the man's chin up. The assassin spat at the stone, then laughed through cracked lips. "So," the assassin rasped, "you'll burn me?" Daenerys Targaryen looked at him as if he were not a man, but a decision. "No," Daenerys Targaryen said. The wind stole some of the word, but not its meaning. The assassin's smile faltered. "Then you'll let me live," he said, voice sharpening with surprise. Daenerys Targaryen's gaze stayed steady. "You tried to kill me," Daenerys Targaryen said. Her voice carried in the courtyard, reaching even the sailors at the edges. "You came into my home with a blade meant for my throat. You were paid by a queen who believes murder is a tool of rule." She paused, letting the truth settle. "You are guilty." The assassin swallowed, and Jon Snow saw fear flicker across his face for the first time. Not fear of dragons, but fear of being denied the simple martyr's death he had imagined. Men like this wanted spectacle. They wanted to die in flame, to be a story. Daenerys Targaryen stepped closer. The torchlight caught her eyes, making them look darker than usual. "Your name will be spoken," Daenerys Targaryen said. "Your crime will be spoken. Your punishment will be spoken. Not whispered, not twisted into rumor." Her voice hardened, "So that when men speak of my reign, they cannot say I hid cruelty in shadow." The assassin sneered, trying to recover his hatred. "You think words save you," he spat. "You think law makes you good. I think law makes me accountable," Daenerys Targaryen said. and that terrifies tyrants more than fire ever will. Grey Worm lifted a sword, clean, simple, sharp. Not a butcher's blade, not a cruel implement. A soldier's tool. He positioned the assassin with practiced precision. The man struggled, sudden panic breaking through his bravado. "Cersei will," he began, then choked as Grey Worm forced his head down. Daenerys Targaryen raised her voice, not to silence him, but to drown him with certainty. "This man dies because he chose murder," Daenerys Targaryen said. "Not because I was insulted. Not because I was afraid." She looked across the gathered faces. Small folk, soldiers, strangers. "If you are hungry, you will be fed. If you are wronged, you will be heard. If you commit crimes under my banners, you will be judged." Her jaw tightened. "And if you try to rule through fear, you will find I am not the only one with fire." A murmur ran through the crowd. Not a cheer, but a shifting, uneasy recognition. Jon Snow felt it like a change in wind. People recalculating what kind of queen this was. Grey Worm's sword rose. Aegon Targaryen did not move. He did not approve with a nod or condemn with a frown. Yet his stillness felt like a hand on the moment's throat, keeping it from turning into spectacle. Grey Worm's blade fell in one clean arc. The sound was not loud. It was wet, final. The assassin's body collapsed, the chains rattling on stone. For a heartbeat, the courtyard held its breath, expecting, perhaps hoping, for flame, for something dramatic, for the old world's cruelty dressed in new clothes. Instead, there was only silence, and the sea roaring beyond the walls. Missandei of Noth stepped forward, face pale but composed, and read the assassin's name from the parchment. She read his crime. She read the sentence. Each word fell like a stone set into a wall. No one could claim ignorance. No one could pretend it had been a whim. Daenerys Targaryen turned her head slightly toward the crowd. "Return to your homes," Daenerys Targaryen said. "Tomorrow the mines will work. The forges will work. The ships will sail." Her gaze sharpened. "This realm will not be held together by terror. It will be held together by promise kept." As people began to disperse, whispering, "Jon Snow F. Elt Ser Davos Seaworth shift beside him." "She's different," Ser Davos Seaworth murmured, as if afraid to say it too loudly. Jon Snow did not answer at once. He watched Daenerys Targaryen as she stood with the wind tugging at her cloak, the torchlight carving her profile into something almost mythic. He watched her not look away from the blood on the stone. Then he saw her eyes flick, once, toward Aegon Targaryen. A question, a need, a silent request for judgment.
Aegon Targaryen's gaze met hers.
He gave her no smile, no bras, only the faintest inclination of his head, as if acknowledging a blade stayed true. Daenerys Targaryen exhaled, and Jon Snow realized she had been holding her breath the entire time. Above the courtyard, somewhere in the darkening sky, a dragon rumbled low, an animal sound that reminded everyone what she could have done. She had not, and the restraint, Jon Snow thought, might be the most frightening kind of power there was. The next morning, the painted table felt crowded with more than bodies. It held the weight of what had been spoken in the courtyard, the weight of a man dead by law instead of flame, the weight of a realm that watched and listened. Candles burned along the edges, their flames steady now that the storm had eased, and the carved coasts of Westeros shimmered beneath the light like a promise that could cut both ways. Jon Snow stood opposite Daenerys Targaryen with his hands empty and his posture guarded. Ser Davos Seaworth lingered near his shoulder, eyes flicking between faces as if expecting knives to appear. Tyrion Lannister sat with ink and parchment ready, his mouth tight with concentration. Missandei of Noth stood poised, her calm a kind of anchor. Grey Worm watched from the doorway, a silent warning that Dragonstone had teeth. Varys's presence hovered at the edge of the room like smoke, listening to everything, revealing nothing. Aegon Targaryen stood behind Daenerys Targaryen again, close enough to be felt rather than seen. The crown lay on a stone shelf, ignored. Daenerys Targaryen began without ceremony. "You will have Dragonglass," Daenerys Targaryen said. Jon Snow's eyes narrowed slightly, surprised by the bluntness. "As much as we can carry," Jon Snow said. "As much as you can mine," Daenerys Targaryen corrected. "Dragonstone's glass is not a gift. It is a resource the realm needs." She paused, eyes sharpening. "And it is mine." Jon Snow's jaw clenched. "I didn't come to steal," Jon Snow said. "I know," Daenerys Targaryen said, and her voice held something like reluctant respect. "But you came to take something I control. That is still politics, whether you want it or not." Tyrion Lannister cleared his throat softly. "We have drafted terms," Tyrion Lannister said, sliding a parchment forward. "An agreement for mining, forging, and transport. The North will receive Dragonglass shipments immediately. In return, Daenerys Targaryen said, cutting in before Tyrion Lannister could soften it. "You will stand with me against Cersei Lannister." Jon Snow's gaze stayed steady. "As an ally," Jon Snow said. Daenerys Targaryen held his eyes for a long heartbeat. The silence tightened, a rope pulled taut. Aegon Targaryen's voice came quietly from behind her. "Make it a vow that can be honored," Aegon Targaryen said. "Not a chain that invites resentment." Daenerys Targaryen's fingers flexed at her side. Jon Snow saw the tension ripple through her, pride wrestling with something newer, something more difficult. Daenerys Targaryen nodded once. "You will not kneel today," Daenerys Targaryen said, each word sounding like it had been weighed and found painful. "But you will swear this. When the war against the dead is met, and when the realm lives long enough for crowns to matter again, the North will not stand apart from the rest of Westeros to watch it burn." Jon Snow's throat tightened. He could feel Sansa Stark's disapproval like a cold hand on his shoulder. He could hear northern voices, "We do not bow. We do not bend." Yet he had seen the dead rise. He had seen what division cost. "I swear," Jon Snow said, and the words were iron. "If the living survive, the North will not abandon the realm." Daenerys Targaryen's gaze sharpened. "And Cersei Lannister?" Daenerys Targaryen asked. Jon Snow's jaw clenched. "Cersei Lannister is an enemy," Jon Snow said. "If we live long enough to fight her, I will fight her." Tyrion Lannister exhaled, relief loosening his shoulders. Missandei of Notha's eyes flickered with approval. Varys's gaze sharpened, calculating. Grey Worm's face remained still, but the tension at his jaw eased slightly. Daenerys Targaryen leaned forward over the painted table. "Then you will have your glass," Daenerys Targaryen said, "and you will have my ships to carry it." Ser Davos Seaworth's eyebrows rose. "Your Grace," Ser Davos Seaworth said carefully. "If you sail north, I will," Daenerys Targaryen said, and the certainty in her voice startled even Tyrion Lannister. She paused, as if hearing her own words, then continued more slowly. "Not yet, but soon. I will see what you speak of with my own eyes." Jon Snow stared at her. "It's dangerous," Jon Snow said. Daenerys Targaryen's mouth tightened. "So is ruling," Daenerys Targaryen said. Aegon Targaryen's gaze remained on the carved north. "The greatest danger," Aegon Targaryen said softly, "is refusing to look." Jon Snow's eyes flicked to Aegon Targaryen again. The man's voice did not sound like any courtier's. It sounded like stone remembering fire. Tyrion Lannister dipped his quill. "Sign here," Tyrion Lannister said, sliding the parchment to Jon Snow. "It's not poetry, but it will keep everyone honest." Jon Snow took the quill. His fingers were clumsy with it. He was a swordman, not a scribe. Still, he pressed his name into the parchment with deliberate care. Jon Snow. The letters looked strange on paper, too fragile to hold promises. Daenerys Targaryen signed next, her hand steady. Daenerys Targaryen. The ink was dark, the strokes firm. She did not add titles. The act felt less like a queen granting mercy and more like a ruler binding herself to a course of action. Aegon Targaryen did not sign. He did not reach for the quill. Yet Jon Snow felt the man's presence in the ink anyway, as if the agreement had been shaped by his hand even without his name. When the parchment was sealed, Daenerys Targaryen looked at Jon Snow with a gaze that held warning and promise together. "Do not mistake this for softness," Daenerys Targaryen said. Jon Snow met her eyes. "I won't," Jon Snow said. "Do not mistake it for obedience." A flicker of something crossed Daenerys Targaryen's face. Irritation, then reluctant amusement. "Fair," Daenerys Targaryen said. As Jon Snow turned to leave, Ser Davos Seaworth following, Tyrion Lannister let out a breath and rubbed his face as if trying to wipe away exhaustion. Varys glided closer to Daenerys Targaryen. "The realm will hear of this," Varys murmured. "A queen who grants weapons without kneeling demanded. They will hear what they choose," Daenerys Targaryen said. Aegon Targaryen's voice came soft, almost gentle. "Then make sure what they hear," Aegon Targaryen said, "is a promise kept." Daenerys Targaryen stared down at the painted table, at the carved north, at the ink that now bound her to a war she could not win with Dragonfire alone. For a moment her expression softened, just enough to reveal the woman behind the queen. Then she straightened, and the softness was gone, replaced by something steadier, resolve. The dragons did not like being treated as proof. They felt it in their bones when men came near with anxious eyes and stiff spines, when their scent carried fear and calculation instead of kinship. The courtyard where they sometimes basked in weak sun was ringed with stone walls and iron bars, but nothing truly held them except the rider's will and the thin, fragile thread of alignment that Aegon Targaryen spoke of. Daenerys Targaryen brought Jon Snow there anyway. The air was colder than he expected, the wind cutting through the open space, carrying the smell of salt and smoke. Scorch marks blackened parts of the stone where flame had kissed it. Ash lay in the cracks like old snow. Rhaegal crouched at one end of the yard, green scales catching light like wet leaves. Viserion lay coiled near the wall, pale and immense, his breathing slow. Drogon was not there at first, and Jon Snow felt a strange relief at not being under the Black Dragon's gaze. Grey worms stood at the edge with unsullied guards, spears upright. Tyrion Lannister hovered at a safe distance, trying to look casual and failing. Missandei of Noth watched Jon Snow's face with quiet concern. Aegon Targaryen stood near Daenerys Targaryen, his expression unreadable. Daenerys Targaryen faced Jon Snow. "You wanted me to believe," Daenerys Targaryen said. Jon Snow's jaw tightened. "I want you to see," Jon Snow said. Daenerys Targaryen nodded once, then turned toward the dragons. She raised her voice, speaking in High Valyrian, and the words rolled out like a spell. The dragons' heads lifted, their eyes fixed on her with the sharp attention of predators recognizing their rider. Jon Snow watched them, feeling the old, primal fear stir in his gut. He had stared into the eyes of dire wolves and seen intelligence there, loyalty, wildness. These eyes held something older, hunger made holy by power. Daenerys Targaryen glanced back at Jon Snow. "Come closer," Daenerys Targaryen said. Jon Snow did not move at once. Ser Davos Seaworth had warned him in low tones the night before. "Do not make sudden movements. Do not show fear. They sense it." Tyrion Lannister had offered less helpful advice, mostly consisting of nervous jokes about being eaten. Jon Snow stepped forward, slow. Rhaegal's head turned, nostrils flaring. The dragon's tongue flicked out, tasting the air. Viserion lifted his head too, pale eyes narrowing. Their bodies remained still, but Jon Snow could feel the tension in them, like a bowstring pulled back. Daenerys Targaryen watched Jon Snow as much as she watched her dragons. "Stop," Daenerys Targaryen said when he was several paces away. "Hold still." Jon Snow held still, his breath fogged faintly in the cold. The dragon's heat made the air shimmer in places, bending the torchlight and turning stone edges soft. Rhaegal shifted, claws scraping. Viserion's wings flexed slightly, the membrane whispering. Then a shadow passed overhead. Drogon dropped into the courtyard with a rush of wind that made torches gutter. The black dragon's wings folded slowly, and his head swung toward Jon Snow with the kind of deliberate attention that made the world feel small. His scales were darker than night, his eyes red gold, his presence heavy as fate. Ser Davos Seaworth swallowed audibly behind Jon Snow. Tyrion Lannister took one unconscious step backward. Jon Snow's hand drifted toward Longclaw's hilt, not in threat but in instinct. A dragon was a weapon. A weapon demanded readiness. Daenerys Targaryen's voice cut through. "No," Daenerys Targaryen said softly to Jon Snow. "Do not reach." Jon Snow forced his hand away from the sword. He kept his arms at his sides, fingers flexing once, then stilling. Drogon's head lowered, slow, until his eyes were level with Jon Snow's. The dragon's nostrils flared, and a wave of hot breath washed over Jon Snow's face, carrying the scent of ash and meat. For a heartbeat, Jon Snow saw himself as prey, saw himself as a small animal beneath a hawk's shadow. Then the dragon's eyes narrowed, and something changed. It was subtle, the way the air changed before snow fell. Drogon's head tilted slightly, as if listening to something Jon Snow could not hear. The dragon's tongue flicked out again, tasting. Daenerys Targaryen stiffened. Jon Snow saw it, the rider's certainty cracking, just for a heartbeat. Drogon moved closer. Jon Snow did not move. His heart hammered, but he held himself steady through sheer stubbornness, through the hard-won discipline of a man who had faced the dead and refused to run. Drogon's snout brushed Jon Snow's chest, the contact gentle enough that it felt almost like a nudge. A sound rose from Drogon's throat, low and vibrating. Not a roar, not a threat, something quieter. Aegon Targaryen's voice came softly from behind Daenerys Targaryen. "He knows," Aegon Targaryen murmured. Daenerys Targaryen's head snapped toward him. "Knows what?" Daenerys Targaryen demanded, voice tight. Aegon Targaryen did not answer. His gaze stayed fixed on Jon Snow and Drogon, and Jon Snow felt, suddenly, the weight of being watched by more than eyes. Watched by blood. Watched by old ghosts living inside flesh. Drogon's head lifted slightly. His eyes locked on Jon Snow again, and Jon Snow felt an odd, impossible certainty press against his mind like a warm hand. Not words, not thoughts, a recognition that made his skin prickle. The dragon's nostrils flared one more time. Then Drogon turned his head away, as if satisfied, and rumbled low toward Daenerys Targaryen, almost like a question. Daenerys Targaryen stood rigid, her face pale beneath the wind. "He's never done that," Daenerys Targaryen whispered, and Jon Snow heard it despite the distance. "Not with anyone." Tyrion Lannister's voice came strained. "Perhaps he's developed friendly habits," Tyrion Lannister offered, the lie thin and desperate. Missandei of Noth watched Daenerys Targaryen's face with quiet worry. Grey worms gazes. Harpened, his body a coiled spring. Jon Snow swallowed. "What does it mean?" Jon Snow asked, voice rough. Daenerys Targaryen did not answer immediately. Her eyes were fixed on Jon Snow as if seeing him for the first time, as if the man standing before her was not merely a king from the north, but a question that could unravel everything. Aegon Targaryen stepped closer to Daenerys Targaryen, voice low enough that perhaps only she could hear, though Jon Snow caught fragments on the wind. "Do not feed fear," Aegon Targaryen murmured. "Do not grasp." Daenerys Targaryen's jaw clenched. She forced her shoulders down, forced her breath to slow. "It means," Daenerys Targaryen said finally, choosing her words as if they were dangerous, "that dragons recognize something in you." Jon Snow's mouth tightened. "I've never seen a dragon before," Jon Snow said. "I've never." "Blood," Aegon Targaryen said, and this time he did not bother to keep the word private. The courtyard went still. Tyrion Lannister's eyes widened. Ser Davos Seaworth made a sound like someone choking on his own breath. Missandei of Noth's hand flew to her mouth. Grey Worm's spear tip angled a fraction. Daenerys Targaryen's gaze snapped to Aegon Targaryen, fury and fear flaring together. "Do not," Daenerys Targaryen said, voice sharp. Aegon Targaryen met her eyes without flinching. "You asked what it meant," Aegon Targaryen said, "and I will not let you drown in silence." Jon Snow stared between them, confusion tightening in his chest like a knot. "What are you saying?" Jon Snow demanded. Daenerys Targaryen held his gaze. For a heartbeat, Jon Snow expected her to lash out, to demand he kneel, to put spears in his chest and end the question with blood. Instead, she inhaled slowly, visibly forcing herself into calm. "I'm saying," Daenerys Targaryen said, voice low, "that the world is larger than we thought, and more dangerous." Her eyes did not leave his. "And that whatever the truth is, we cannot afford to let it turn us into enemies." Jon Snow's throat tightened. He did not understand, not fully, but he understood enough to feel the ground shifting under his feet. Drogon rumbled again, as if impatient with human confusion. Daenerys Targaryen lifted her chin, steadying herself. "We will speak of this later," Daenerys Targaryen said. "For now, you have what you came for. Proof, Dragonglass, and my promise to see the truth." Jon Snow nodded slowly, though his mind spun. As he stepped back from the dragons, he felt Drogon's gaze follow him, heavy and unreadable. He had faced the dead. He had not expected to face questions about himself that felt just as dangerous. Night softened Dragonstone's edges, turning black stone into deeper shadow and making the torches feel like fragile stars clinging to walls. In a narrow chamber lined with old shelves and salt-warped books, Tyrion Lannister stood with a cup of wine he had not yet tasted. The room smelled of dust and damp parchment, of ink and time. It was the kind of place a man could hide in when politics became too sharp. Aegon Targaryen found him there anyway. He entered without announcement, his boots quiet on stone. He did not wear his crown. In torchlight, his armor looked less like a conqueror's glory and more like a burden made of metal. His presence filled the small room the way a storm filled a horizon. Tyrion Lannister lifted his cup slightly. "You do make a habit of appearing in unexpected places," Tyrion Lannister said. Aegon Targaryen's gaze slid over the books, the cramped shelves, the scattered scrolls. "I was raised among words as much as swords," Aegon Targaryen said. "Maesters taught my sisters. They taught me too, though Visenya Targaryen pretended not to care for ink." Tyrion Lannister swallowed. Hearing those names spoken casually, Visenya, as if she might walk in any moment, made the room feel unreal. "If you truly are who you claim," Tyrion Lannister said carefully, "then you have been dead for centuries." Aegon Targaryen's gaze flicked to him. "And yet you speak to me," Aegon Targaryen said. Tyrion Lannister's mouth tightened. "I speak to many impossible things," Tyrion Lannister said. "Most of them wear crowns." Aegon Targaryen's lips curved faintly, not quite amusement. "You are afraid," Aegon Targaryen observed. Tyrion Lannister scoffed softly. "Of course I'm afraid," Tyrion Lannister said. "I'm standing in a damp room with a man who claims to be a dead conqueror, advising a queen with dragons, while the world threatens to end in ice." He lifted his cup. "If I weren't afraid, I'd be an idiot." Aegon Targaryen stepped closer to one shelf and ran a gloved finger along a spine cracked with age. "Fear is useful," Aegon Targaryen said. "It sharpens. It warns." His finger stopped. "But if you make fear your tool, it becomes your master." Tyrion Lannister's eyes narrowed. "You speak like a man who learned that lesson late," Tyrion Lannister said. Aegon Targaryen's jaw tightened. "Late," Aegon Targaryen agreed. "And at cost." Tyrion Lannister took a slow sip of wine, needing the burn to anchor him. "Why are you here?" Tyrion Lannister asked. "In this room, with me." Aegon Targaryen's gaze settled on Tyrion Lannister with a steadiness that made it hard to hide behind jokes. "Because you are the Queen's hand," Aegon Targaryen said. "And a hand can either guide a blade or make it strike wildly." Tyrion Lannister's mouth twisted. "You think I haven't tried?" Tyrion Lannister asked. "You think I enjoy being ignored when she hears someone whisper Dracarys in her blood?" Aegon Targaryen stepped closer, close enough that Tyrion Lannister could smell smoke and iron. "I think you are tired," Aegon Targaryen said, "and that tired men begin to compromise." His eyes hardened slightly. "They begin to accept cruelty as inevitable." Tyrion Lannister set his cup down too hard, wine sloshing. Cruelty is inevitable, Tyrion Lannister snapped. Look at this world. Look at what it does to people. Look at what it did to me, to my sister, to my father, to Daenerys Targaryen. He inhaled sharply. All I can do is choose the shape of it. Aegon Targaryen's gaze did not flinch. Then choose a shape you can live with, Aegon Targaryen said. Tyrion Lannister stared at him. You speak as if living with it is possible, Tyrion Lannister said, voice quieter. Aegon Targaryen's eyes went distant for a moment, as if seeing a castle burning far away. I burned Harrenhal, Aegon Targaryen said. I watched stone melt. I watched men become smoke. And for a long time I told myself it was necessary. His jaw tightened. I told myself the end justified the fire. He looked back at Tyrion Lannister. Then I listened to my people whisper about what I had done. Not praise, fear. The kind that poisons loyalty. Tyrion Lannister swallowed, throat tight. Aegon Targaryen continued, voice low. Aegon's peace, Aegon Targaryen said, and there was bitterness in it. They named it after me, as if I had stitched the realm together with my own hands. But peace held by fear is a rope around a throat. It looks stable until someone pulls. He paused. My sons pulled. Tyrion Lannister thought of Joffrey Baratheon, of Tommen Baratheon, of Cersei Lannister pulling and pulling until the rope snapped and strangled everyone. You think Daenerys Targaryen will become like that? Tyrion Lannister said. Aegon Targaryen's eyes sharpened. I think she stands on the edge, Aegon Targaryen said. And you stand beside her. Tyrion Lannister's hands clenched. She's not mad, Tyrion Lannister said fiercely. Aegon Targaryen's voice stayed even. Madness is not a lightning strike, Aegon Targaryen said. It is a slow hunger. It begins when fear convinces you that only you can save the world, and therefore anything you do is justified. Tyrion Lannister flinched, because the words fit too well. Aegon Targaryen took a breath, the closest he came to softness. You have survived, Aegon Targaryen said. That makes you dangerous, not because you are cruel, but because you know the price of cruelty. He watched Tyrion Lannister. Do not let survival teach you that nothing else matters. Tyrion Lannister's voice dropped. And what about you? Tyrion Lannister asked. You survived death. You returned. You speak of regret as if it can heal anything. His eyes narrowed. Are you here to atone? Or to rule again through her? Aegon Targaryen's gaze hardened. If I wanted to rule, Aegon Targaryen said, I would not hide my crown on a shelf. Tyrion Lannister swallowed. Then why? Tyrion Lannister insisted. Are you here, Aegon Targa? Ryan's eyes went to the small window slit where the sea's dark motion could be glimpsed. Because I dreamed of a winter that devours kingdoms, Aegon Targaryen said. Because I forged a realm to stand against it, and the realm broke itself on pride and blood. He looked back at Tyrion Lannister. Because if this queen burns the realm to take it, there will be nothing left to save. Tyrion Lannister's throat tightened. He thought of the carved figures in the cavern. White Walkers, men, children of the forest. He thought of Jon Snow's haunted eyes. And Jon Snow? Tyrion Lannister asked quietly. Aegon Targaryen's gaze sharpened. He is a blade tempered in cold, Aegon Targaryen said. And there is heat in him that frightens me. Tyrion Lannister's eyes narrowed. Because of the dragons, Tyrion Lannister said. Aegon Targaryen did not deny it. He only said quieter, because blood remembers. Tyrion Lannister's mind raced, but before he could speak, Aegon Targaryen stepped back, turning toward the door as if the conversation was finished. One more thing, Tyrion Lannister blurted, because he could not let mysteries walk away without at least throwing a hook into them. If you taught her to rule without fear, what would you tell her now? Before she sails north and leaves her war behind. Aegon Targaryen paused at the threshold. The torchlight caught his face, making him look older than his years, older than the room. I would tell her, Aegon Targaryen said, that courage is not burning what threatens you. His voice dropped. rough. Courage is walking into the cold and letting the realm see you shiver like everyone else. Then he left, and the room felt suddenly emptier, as if a great weight had been lifted and replaced by something worse. A question. Tyrion Lannister stared at his untouched wine and realized, with a chill, that he had not been speaking to a ghost. He had been speaking to a warning. By midday, the castle's ravens were restless, shifting in their cages and pecking at bars as if they could smell war on the wind. Varys moved through Dragonstone's corridors with the quiet speed of a man who had lived his whole life beneath knives. He did not hurry like a soldier. He hurried like a spider sensing a tremor in the web. In a small chamber near the rookery, his little birds waited, wide-eyed boys and girls with ink-stained fingers and sharp ears. They brought scraps of information the way other children brought flowers, eager to be useful, eager to please. Varys listened, his face smooth, his eyes cold with focus. "King's Landing is building more," whispered one child, eyes darting. "Great machines on the walls, like the ones the Lannisters used in the last war. They say they're for dragons." Scorpions, Varys thought. The word tasted like iron. Another child spoke, voice trembling. "Ships," she said. "Many ships. They say the Ironborn King has brought them. They say the Queen promises him anything he wants." Varys nodded slowly, filing each sentence away. Cersei Lannister was not idle. Cersei Lannister did not wait to be strangled by blockades and promises. She sharpened her claws while her enemies debated morality. When the children were dismissed, Varys walked toward the painted table chamber with the messages hidden in his sleeve. He found Daenerys Targaryen there with Tyrion Lannister and Missandei of Noth. Grey Worm stood at the door. Aegon Targaryen stood near the table, gaze fixed on the carved south as if he could see King's Landing through stone. Daenerys Targaryen looked up when Varys entered. "Speak," Daenerys Targaryen said. Varys stepped forward and unrolled his reports. "Cersei Lannister is fortifying," Varys said softly. "She is raising scorpions on the walls, more than before. She is courting the Ironborn King with promises." Varys's eyes flicked to Tyrion Lannister. "And she is whispering that the Dragon Queen has already begun to rule by blood." Tyrion Lannister's mouth tightened. "Of course she is," Tyrion Lannister said. "If she can't defeat Daenerys Targaryen with swords, she'll defeat her with stories." Daenerys Targaryen's jaw clenched. "Let her whisper," Daenerys Targaryen said. Aegon Targaryen's voice came low, almost gentle. "Stories are swords," Aegon Targaryen said. "They cut deeper because they lodge in minds." Daenerys Targaryen's eyes flicked to him, irritation flaring. "Do not tell me what I already know," Daenerys Targaryen snapped. Aegon Targaryen did not flinch. "Then act as if you know it," Aegon Targaryen said. Silence tightened. Tyrion Lannister glanced between them, wary. Missandei of Noth kept her gaze down, as if pretending not to hear the sharpness between dragon and old fire. Varys cleared his throat softly. "There is another matter," Varys said. "If your grace intends to sail north." "I do," Daenerys Targaryen said. Varys's eyes held hers. "Then Cersei Lannister will strike while you are gone," Varys said. Daenerys Targaryen's gaze sharpened. "She will strike anyway," Daenerys Targaryen said. "Yes," Varys said quietly. "But the realm will see you leave. They will see you abandon the war for the throne to chase northern nightmares. Cersei Lannister will paint it as fear." Daenerys Targaryen's hands tightened at her sides. She could feel the familiar heat rising. Anger at being misunderstood. Anger at being framed. Anger that wanted to answer with fire. Aegon Targaryen's voice cut through, low and steady. "Then make it courage," Aegon Targaryen said. Daenerys Targaryen turned, eyes flashing. "How?" Daenerys Targaryen demanded. Aegon Targaryen's gauntlet hand rested on the painted table, fingers spread over the riverlands. "You do not leave quietly," Aegon Targaryen said. "You leave openly. You send ravens ahead. You tell the realm. I go north because my crown is useless if my people are dead." His gaze sharpened. "You frame it as duty. You frame it as protection. You frame it as rule. Tyrion Lannister nodded slowly. A proclamation, Tyrion Lannister murmured, not an apology. Varys's eyes narrowed slightly, thoughtful. He did not like leaving narrative to chance. Yet he recognized strategy when he saw it. Daenerys Targaryen stared down at the carved map. If I go north, Daenerys Targaryen said slowly, I must leave someone to hold the south. Tyrion Lannister lifted his chin. You have allies, Tyrion Lannister said. The Tyrells, the Greyjoys, Dorne. His mouth tightened. Assuming none of them decide that dragons are too dangerous to support. Daenerys Targaryen's gaze flicked to Varys. Send word, Daenerys Targaryen said, to our allies. Tell them the plan does not change. The blockade continues. The pressure continues. Her voice hardened. Cersei Lannister will not be allowed to breathe while I am gone. Varys bowed his head slightly. As you command, Varys said. Then Daenerys Targaryen's gaze shifted, sharp. And the city, Daenerys Targaryen said. If it starves. Tyrion Lannister's eyes lifted. We feed the villages, Tyrion Lannister said quickly. We make it clear what is offered. We do not let the innocent bear the punishment. Daenerys Targaryen exhaled slowly. Good, Daenerys Targaryen said. Then let the realm see what I choose not to do. Aegon Targaryen's eyes met hers, and there was something like approval there, buried beneath the hardness. Promise, Aegon Targaryen murmured. Not threat. Varys watched them, his face smooth, his mind racing. A queen who refused to rule by terror was admirable. A queen who refused to rule by terror while holding dragons was dangerous in a different way. She could inspire loyalty, and loyalty was harder to predict than fear. As Varys turned to leave, he paused at the door and looked back. His gaze landed on Aegon Targaryen, and for the first time his voice held a faint edge. And you, Varys said softly, what will the realm call you? Aegon Targaryen's eyes did not blink. They can call me whatever they like, Aegon Targaryen said, if it helps them live. Varys held the gaze a moment longer, then dipped his head and slipped away, his mind already weaving plans. In the rookery, ravens beat their wings against bars. In King's Landing, scorpions rose. And on Dragonstone, a queen prepared to sail into the cold, trying to make courage louder than fear. The mines became a heartbeat beneath Dragonstone. From dawn until torchlight claimed the tunnels. Picks struck stone in rhythmic blows. Miners sweated in damp darkness, their breath steaming in the chill, their hands black with dust. Veins of dragonglass gleamed in the torchlight like frozen lightning, sharp and cruel. The sound of chipping echoed up through the island's bones, a constant reminder that war was being shaped in the dark. In the forge chamber, Gendry worked like a man possessed. His hammer rose and fell, striking iron, setting handles, binding brittle obsidian to wood and steel in ways that would keep it from shattering on impact. His arms were slick with sweat. His hair stuck to his forehead. The heat of the forge painted his skin with a red glow, and the air around him shimmered. Unsullied carried crates. Dothraki watched with impatience, and used to work that did not involve blood. Sailors came and went, ferrying supplies down to the docks. Missandei of Noth moved among them all with ledger and calm voice, counting, recording, paying where payment was owed. Daenerys Targaryen walked through the mine mouth with Grey Worm at her shoulder, her cloak pulled tight against the chill. The air smelled of damp stone and smoke. She had been a queen in cities where heat pressed against skin like a hand. Here, the cold made her feel exposed, as if winter could peel back her certainty. Aegon Targaryen walked beside her, his gaze taking in details, how the miners flinched when Unsullied passed, how the Dothraki's eyes followed movement like predators. He said nothing at first. He did not need to. Daenerys Targaryen could feel the lesson in his silence. Rule is watching, not only commanding. A miner stumbled as he carried a crate of dragonglass shards toward the forge. The crate was heavy, the stone uneven. He caught himself before falling, but one shard slipped free and clattered on the ground, slicing his calf in a thin line. Blood beaded bright against pale skin. The man swore, low and angry, and bent to snatch the shard up. A Dothraki rider stepped forward, laughing, and kicked the shard away with the toe of his boot. "Weak," the rider said in broken common, grinning. "Small man bleeds from rock." The miner's face flushed with humiliation, fury tightening his jaw. He looked at Daenerys Targaryen with a fear that was not only fear of punishment but fear of being ignored. Fear that nothing would change because powerful men always laughed. Daenerys Targaryen felt heat rise. For a moment she wanted to order the Dothraki flogged. For a moment she wanted to remind everyone here that she was not a girl in exile anymore. Aegon Targaryen's voice came quietly. "If you punish, make it teach," Aegon Targaryen murmured. "Not satisfy." Daenerys Targaryen inhaled, forcing her anger into shape. She looked at the Dothraki rider. "You," Daenerys Targaryen said. The rider's grin widened, thinking perhaps he had pleased her with cruelty. He stepped closer, swaggering. "Khaleesi," he said. Daenerys Targaryen's gaze was cold. "You will carry that crate," Daenerys Targaryen said. "And the next, and the next." Her voice sharpened. "You will do the work you mocked. You will bleed from stone if the stone demands it." The rider blinked, confusion wrinkling his brow. "I fight," he protested. "I take." "You do not take from my people," Daenerys Targaryen cut in. Her voice carried through the tunnel mouth, drawing eyes. "You do not humiliate those who build what keeps you alive." She stepped closer, close enough that the rider's grin faltered. "You crossed the sea for me. If you cannot obey my law, you can cross it again. Into the water." The Dothraki rider swallowed. He glanced around, perhaps expecting laughter from his brothers. Instead he saw unsullied faces blank as stone, saw miners watching with wide eyes, saw gray worms gaze like a spear point. Slowly, grudgingly, the rider bent and picked up the crate. Daenerys Targaryen turned to the miner. "You are paid for your labor," Daenerys Targaryen said. "If any soldier takes from you, you come to me. I will hear it." The miner's eyes widened. "Your Grace," he whispered. Disbelief and gratitude tangled together. Daenerys Targaryen nodded once, then moved toward the forge chamber. Gendry looked up as she entered, hammer paused midair. "Your Grace," Gendry said, wiping sweat from his brow with a forearm. "We're making spearheads. Arrowheads too. Knives." He gestured toward a table where black blades lay in neat rows, each one gleaming with cruel light. "It breaks easy if you strike wrong, but if you stab, if you pierce, it will kill them." Jon Snow's voice came from the shadows. Daenerys Targaryen turned. Jon Snow stood near the back of the forge chamber, cloak dusted with stone grit, his face drawn tight with worry. Ser Davos Seaworth stood beside him, hands clasped as if in prayer, eyes darting to the weapons as if afraid of what they meant. Daenerys Targaryen stepped closer, studying the blades. They were ugly in a way steel was not, jagged, uneven, shaped by necessity rather than beauty. Yet they held a kind of purpose that made her skin prickle. Frozen fire turned into knives. The world had strange poetry. "These will be shipped north," Daenerys Targaryen said. Jon Snow nodded once, relief easing his shoulders. "We'll need more," Jon Snow said. "Always more." Daenerys Targaryen's gaze flicked to him. "You will have what we can make," Daenerys Targaryen said. "And you will have smiths." She looked at Gendry. "How many men do you need?" Gendry's eyes widened at being addressed like a commander. "As many as you can spare," Gendry said. This isn't one forge's work." Daenerys Targaryen nodded. "Then we will bring you men," Daenerys Targaryen said. "And iron, and coal." Her gaze hardened. "This will not fail because of poor preparation." Aegon Targaryen watched the exchange, his eyes quiet. When Daenerys Targaryen turned away from the blades, she found his gaze on her and understood the unspoken lesson. She had punished without spectacle, paid without pride, commanded without cruelty. Felt like walking a blade's edge. As they left the forge, Jon Snow stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You didn't have to do that," Jon Snow said. Daenerys Targaryen's gaze narrowed. "Do what?" Daenerys Targaryen asked. "Treat them like people," Jon Snow said. His eyes flicked toward the miners. "Most rulers don't." Daenerys Targaryen felt a flare of irritation at the implication, then swallowed it. "Most rulers," Daenerys Targaryen said, "are afraid." Jon Snow met her eyes. "So are you," Jon Snow said quietly. The words were not accusation. They were recognition. Daenerys Targaryen's throat tightened. She looked away toward the mine mouth, toward the dark where Dragonglass waited in the stone like a secret. "Then let fear make me careful," Daenerys Targaryen said. "Not cruel." Aegon Targaryen's voice came soft behind her, almost like wind through flame. "Careful," Aegon Targaryen murmured, "is the beginning of wisdom." Above them, somewhere in the towers, a dragon roared, impatient with tunnels and toil, reminding everyone of the simpler, older answer. Daenerys Targaryen kept walking anyway, choosing the harder path with each step. The council that followed tasted of salt and stubbornness. Yara Greyjoy sprawled in a chair as if sitting were an act of defiance, her fingers drumming on the table. Her eyes were sharp, restless. "You're leaving," Yara Greyjoy said, not bothering to hide her annoyance. "And you think the South will wait politely?" Daenerys Targaryen stood at the painted table, hands resting on the wood, gaze fixed on the black smudge that marked King's Landing. "The South will not wait," Daenerys Targaryen said. "That is why you will keep it from moving freely." Yara Greyjoy snorted. "You want my ships to choke the Blackwater while you chase frozen ghosts," Yara Greyjoy said. "Fine. I like choking things." Tyrion Lannister winced. "A poetic ally," Tyrion Lannister murmured. Missandei of Noth spread supply lists on the table, grain counts, ship manifests, forge outputs. The numbers were a different kind of war map. Grey Worm stood by the door, silent and solid. Varys hovered near the shadows, his gaze flicking between faces like a blade searching for weakness. Aegon Targaryen stood behind Daenerys Targaryen, gaze moving over the table not like a strategist counting troops, but like a ruler weighing consequences. "You will announce your voyage," Varys said softly. "You will frame it as duty. Good. But Cersei Lannister will still strike. She may move against our allies while you're away." Daenerys Targaryen's jaw tightened. "Then our allies will have orders," Daenerys Targaryen said. "They will know the plan. They will know what we offer. They will know what we will not do." Yara Greyjoy leaned forward, eyes gleaming. "And what about the city?" Yara Greyjoy asked. "If your blockade works, King's Landing will starve. Starving men do not love." Her grin sharpened. "They riot." Daenerys Targaryen felt the familiar temptation rise. Let them starve, let them hate Cersei, let hunger do the work dragons need not. The thought was cold, efficient. Aegon Targaryen's voice came quietly. "A promise that kills," Aegon Targaryen said, "is not a promise." Daenerys Targaryen's fingers tightened on the table's edge. She forced her anger down. "We will feed the villages," Daenerys Targaryen said. "We will open distribution points outside the city. We will make it known that food is offered." Her gaze sharpened. "If the gates stay shut, that is Cersei Lannister's choice, not mine." Tyrion Lannister exhaled, relief visible. "That," Tyrion Lannister said, "might actually work." Varys's eyes narrowed slightly. "And if Cersei Lannister claims the food is poisoned?" Varys asked. Daenerys Targaryen's gaze hardened. "Then we eat it first," Daenerys Targaryen said. "Publicly." Yara Greyjoy laughed. "Brave," Yara Greyjoy said. "Or foolish." "Both," Tyrion Lannister muttered. A messenger arrived mid-council, boots wet, breath sharp from the cold outside. He bowed quickly and spoke to Grey Worm in clipped words. Grey Worm's eyes shifted, the smallest sign of tension. Daenerys Targaryen turned. "What?" Daenerys Targaryen demanded. Grey Worm's voice was flat. A man caught near the docks, Grey Worm said. Watching, writing. His jaw tightened. He ran when approached. Varys's eyes sharpened. A spy, Varys murmured. Daenerys Targaryen's heat rose, sudden and fierce. A spy meant Cersei's eyes in her home. A spy meant knives in shadow. The instinct screamed, burn him, make an example, make fear do the work. Aegon Targaryen's hand came down on the table, not hard, but firm enough to be heard. If you burn every shadow, Aegon Targaryen said, you blind yourself. Daenerys Targaryen's gaze snapped to him. Then what? Daenerys Targaryen demanded. We let Cersei Lannister's rats scurry? Aegon Targaryen's eyes were steady. You drag the rat into light, Aegon Targaryen said. You make it speak. His voice hardened. But you do not become a cat that kills for pleasure. Daenerys Targaryen's jaw clenched. She looked at Varys. Can you find who he serves? Daenerys Targaryen asked. Varys smiled faintly, not pleased, but confident. I can, Varys said. Daenerys Targaryen turned to Grey Worm. Hold him, Daenerys Targaryen said. Do not harm him. Grey Worm's eyes flicked, uncertain. He may hide truth, Grey Worm said. Daenerys Targaryen's voice was iron. Then we will find truth without cruelty, Daenerys Targaryen said. That is the point. Yara Greyjoy watched Daenerys Targaryen with an expression that was almost respect. You're trying, Yara Greyjoy said. I'll give you that. Daenerys Targaryen did not respond. Trying felt like admitting weakness. Yet she could feel Aegon Targaryen's gaze on her, and in it she felt not judgment but insistence. Keep trying. As the council continued, the decisions came like stones placed in a wall, orders to ships, orders to forges, orders to ravens. Each one required Daenerys Targaryen to imagine not only victory but aftermath. When the meeting ended, Tyrion Lannister lingered, rubbing his temples. You're doing it, Tyrion Lannister said quietly, as if afraid saying it aloud might break it. Daenerys Targaryen looked down at the painted table. Doing what? Daenerys Targaryen asked. Tyrion Lannister's mouth twisted into something like a smile. Being terrifying, Tyrion Lannister said, without being cruel. Daenerys Targaryen exhaled slowly. I'm not sure which is harder, Daenerys Targaryen said. Aegon Targaryen's voice came soft behind her. That is how you know it matters, Aegon Targaryen said. Daenerys Targaryen closed her eyes for a heartbeat, letting the words settle like ash. Then she opened them and turned toward the door. Winter waited, and she would meet it with law, not fire alone. The ship north was sturdier than the one that had carried Jon Snow south, its hull thick, its sails heavy with salt. Even so, the sea treated it like a toy, tossing it on black waves that rose like walls and crashed like fists. The air bit at skin. Spray froze on rope and rail. The sky was a low gray lid that seemed determined to press the world into silence. Daenerys Targaryen stood on deck with her cloak wrapped tight, her breath visible in pale puffs. She had sailed before, but always in warmer waters, always with sun that softened edges. Here, the cold stole arrogance. It made even queens feel human. Jon Snow stood near the rail, face turned into the wind as if daring it to break him. Ser Davos Seaworth moved with practiced ease, bracing himself as the deck shifted beneath their feet, barking orders to sailors who listened like men who respected competence more than crowns. Tyrion Lannister sat in a sheltered corner with a blanket and a cup of something hot, his face a picture of quiet misery. I've decided, Tyrion Lannister announced to no one in particular, that the North is a ridiculous idea. We should all simply stay in warm places and drink. Missandei of Noth smiled faintly, though her fingers were white where she gripped the rail. Grey Worm stood still as stone, as if the sea could not sway him. Aegon Targaryen stood at the prow, unmoving. The wind tugged at his cloak, but he did not pull it tighter. He watched the water as if it held secrets. Daenerys Targaryen approached him, boots slipping slightly on wet wood. She steadied herself with a hand on the rail. You look as if you've done this before, Daenerys Targaryen said. Aegon Targaryen did not turn at first. I crossed these waters with Visenya Targaryen and Rhaenys Targaryen, Aegon Targaryen said. His voice was low, carrying over wind. We watched storms like this and laughed, because we thought ourselves invincible. Daenerys Targaryen's jaw tightened. Were you? Daenerys Targaryen asked. Aegon Targaryen's eyes flicked to her. No, Aegon Targaryen said simply. The bluntness cut through the wind's noise. Daenerys Targaryen stared out at the sea. Why did the North kneel to you? Daenerys Targaryen asked. If they are as stubborn as Jon Snow says. Aegon Targaryen's mouth tightened. Because Torrhen Stark was wise, Aegon Targaryen said. He saw dragons and understood that bravery could become stupidity if it killed his people. His gaze went distant. He knelt, and the North lived. Daenerys Targaryen's eyes sharpened. Then why did you let them keep their ways? Daenerys Targaryen asked. Why not crush them like the rest? Aegon Targaryen's gaze stayed on the horizon. Because the North is not like the South, Aegon Targaryen said. It does not bend easily, and it does not forget humiliation. He paused, then added quieter. And because my dream always led north. Daenerys Targaryen's throat tightened. The dream again, Daenerys Targaryen said. Aegon Targaryen nodded once. A wall of ice, Aegon Targaryen murmured. Cold that ate sound, a darkness that moved like a tide. His jaw tightened. I told myself conquest was my destiny, but beneath it was always that feeling, urgency, fear. He looked at Daenerys Targaryen. Not fear of enemies with swords, fear of something that did not care who sat on thrones. Daenerys Targaryen swallowed. The sea rolled beneath them, endless and indifferent. And you think Jon Snow speaks truth? Daenerys Targaryen said. Aegon Targaryen's eyes narrowed slightly. I think he believes it, Aegon Targaryen said. And belief forged in terror is rarely false. Daenerys Targaryen's gaze flicked toward Jon Snow, who stood with his face turned into wind as if the cold were an old friend. He is stubborn, Daenerys Targaryen said. Aegon Targaryen's mouth curved faintly. So are you, Aegon Targaryen said. Daenerys Targaryen bristled, then exhaled. I do not want to kneel to him, Daenerys Targaryen said quietly. Aegon Targaryen's gaze stayed steady. Do not kneel, Aegon Targaryen said, but do not demand kneeling as payment for protection. His voice hardened. Protection is the debt of rule. Daenerys Targaryen stared at him, feeling old anger rise. Anger at being told what she owed. Yet beneath it was something else. The ache of realizing how much the word queen demanded. A wave struck the ship hard, rocking it. Daenerys Targaryen grabbed the rail, knuckles whitening. Tyrion Lannister made a sound of disgust from his corner. Ser Davos Seaworth barked an order. Sailors moved like ants bracing against storm. Jon Snow glanced back, catching Daenerys Targaryen's grip on the rail. For a moment his expression softened. He stepped closer, voice low. You'll get used to it, Jon Snow said. Daenerys Targaryen shot him a look. I have dragons, Daenerys Targaryen said. I do not get used to anything. Jon Snow's mouth twitched. That's the problem, Jon Snow said, then looked away before the words became insult. Daenerys Targaryen felt irritation flare, then fade. Jon Snow did not flatter. Jon Snow did not fear her enough to lie. That was dangerous. It was also, she realized, useful. As night fell, the cold grew sharper. The horizon vanished into darkness. The ship's lanterns burned like small stars, fragile against the vast sea. Daenerys Targaryen stood on deck anyway, refusing to retreat, letting the wind slap her face as if reminding her, you are not a god. You are a woman on wood above water. Aegon Targaryen stood beside her, silent. Are you afraid? Daenerys Targaryen asked suddenly, not looking at him. Aegon Targaryen's voice came after a pause. Yes, Aegon Targaryen said. Daenerys Targaryen's head turned sharply. Of what? Daenerys Targaryen demanded. Aegon Targaryen's gaze stayed on the dark water. Of you, Aegon Targaryen said. Then, before her anger could ignite, he added, "Not because you are cruel, because you are powerful." His voice hardened. Power, without fear, is rare, and therefore, unpredictable. Daenerys Targaryen swallowed, the words landing like cold steel. Aegon Targaryen finally looked at her. "Do not try to kill fear," Aegon Targaryen said quietly. "Use it. Let it make you cautious. Let it keep your hand from becoming fire." Daenerys Targaryen stared out at the sea, and for the first time she understood why this voyage mattered beyond the dead. If the realm saw her endure cold, endure doubt, endure the humiliation of needing allies, then perhaps the realm would believe she ruled by something other than terror. Perhaps. The sea rolled beneath them, and the ship kept moving north, toward snow, toward wolves, toward a war that did not care who held crowns. Daenerys Targaryen pulled her cloak tighter and kept her eyes open. White Harbor rose out of morning mist like a hard thought. The city's stone walls were rimed with frost. Ships crowded the docks, their masts a forest of dark lines against gray sky. Smoke rose from chimneys in thin threads, and the smell of fish and salt and cold iron hit Daenerys Targaryen the moment the ship drew close. It was not the sweet spice air of Meereen. It was harsh, honest, unwelcoming. The harbor was already crowded with people when they arrived. Northmen in thick cloaks, their faces set in wary lines. Sailors with cracked hands. Women clutching children close. Men with axes at their belts, as if expecting war to walk off the ship with the queen. Daenerys Targaryen stood at the rail, looking down at them. She felt their fear like a tangible thing. It made her skin prickle. A dragon's shadow passed overhead, and the crowd flinched as one. Drogon circled high above the harbor, black against gray sky. Rhaegal and Viserion followed farther out, their shapes sliding through cloud like ghosts. The dragons did not roar, but their silence was worse, an unspoken reminder of what they could do. Daenerys Targaryen turned to Grey Worm. "Keep the Dothraki back," Daenerys Targaryen said. "They do not enter the city." Grey Worm nodded once. Orders were comfort. Jon Snow stood beside her, face tight. "They're afraid," Jon Snow said quietly, as if stating a fact that needed no shame. Daenerys Targaryen's jaw tightened. "They have reason," Daenerys Targaryen said. Ser Davos Seaworth rubbed his hands together, breath fogging. "If we want them to listen," Ser Davos Seaworth murmured, "we should not start by frightening them half to death." Daenerys Targaryen's gaze flicked to the docks. She saw a child staring upward, eyes wide, mouth open, fear and wonder tangled together. She remembered herself as a child, staring at stories of dragons and believing they were gone forever. Aegon Targaryen stood behind her, gaze fixed on the city. "They will fear you," Aegon Targaryen said softly. "Do not punish them for it." Daenerys Targaryen exhaled slowly. "Land the dragons outside the walls," Daenerys Targaryen said, voice carrying. She turned her head upward and called in High Valyrian, the words rolling out sharp and commanding. Drogon's shadow shifted. The black dragon banked away from the harbor, circling wider. Rhaegal and Viserion followed. The crowd's breath loosened slightly. When the gangplank dropped, Daenerys Targaryen stepped onto the dock with her cloak wrapped tight and her head held high. Water glistened on the planks. Frost rimed rope. The smell of the sea cut through everything. A line of northern soldiers waited, shields and spears ready, their faces hard. At their front stood a stout lord in rich furs, his cheeks red with cold, his eyes sharp with suspicion. "Wyman Manderly," Jon Snow said quietly. Daenerys Targaryen stepped forward. "Lord Wyman Manderly," Daenerys Targaryen said. Wyman Manderly bowed stiffly, not too deep. "Your Grace," Wyman Manderly said, and the title sounded like something he had been forced to say with clenched teeth. His eyes flicked upward, as if expecting dragons to drop. "You've brought quite the storm." "I brought ships," Daenerys Targaryen said, "and Dragonglass." She lifted her chin. "And myself." Wyman Manderly's eyes narrowed. A queen crossing half the world for northern tales, Wyman Manderly said. That's either courage or folly. Daenerys Targaryen met his gaze. It is duty, Daenerys Targaryen said. Behind Wyman Manderly, the crowd pressed closer. Whispers ran through them like wind through reeds. Dragon Queen, witch, savior, monster. Daenerys Targaryen could almost hear each word even without listening. She stepped forward, raising her voice. People of White Harbor, Daenerys Targaryen called. The murmurs stilled, not because they trusted her, but because they were afraid not to listen. Daenerys Targaryen's gaze swept the faces. Hard men, tired women, children with wide eyes. I know what you think of me, Daenerys Targaryen said. You have heard stories of dragons, of fire, of a queen from across the sea who means to take what she wants. A few men tightened their grips on weapons. A woman pulled her child closer. Daenerys Targaryen continued, voice steady. I did not come here to burn your homes, Daenerys Targaryen said. I did not come here to take your food. I did not come here to make your children fear the sky. Her jaw tightened. I came because Jon Snow says the dead are coming. And if the dead come, your walls will not matter. Your pride will not matter. Only the living will matter. The words landed heavy. Jon Snow watched her face, surprised by the directness. Ser Davos Seaworth's shoulders eased slightly. Daenerys Targaryen gestured, and sailors began hauling crates onto the dock. Barrels of grain, sacks of flour, bundles of salted meat. The smell of food hit the crowd like a physical blow. This food is for your people, Daenerys Targaryen said. Not as charity, as alliance. Her eyes sharpened. If any man under my banners steals from you, he will answer to me. A murmur ran through the crowd. Hunger and skepticism tangled together. One Dothraki rider, impatient, pushed forward near the edge of the dock, eyes fixed on the crates. He barked something in his tongue and reached toward a sack. Grey Worm moved like a blade. His hand caught the rider's wrist. The Dothraki yanked back, snarling, but the unsullied line tightened instantly, spear points angling. The crowd flinched, fear rising again, ready to turn into riot. Daenerys Targaryen stepped forward. No, Daenerys Targaryen said, voice like iron. The rider froze, eyes widening. He looked at Daenerys Targaryen, then at the crowd, then back to Daenerys Targaryen as if trying to decide whether she would truly punish him in front of strangers. Daenerys Targaryen's gaze did not waver. You will step back, Daenerys Targaryen said. You will wait, and you will remember that these people are not prey. The rider hesitated, pride warring with fear. Then he stepped back. The crowd watched, stunned. Wyman Manderly's eyes narrowed, recalculating. You keep a tight leash, Wyman Manderly said quietly. Daenerys Targaryen's mouth tightened. I keep a law, Daenerys Targaryen said. Aegon Targaryen stood behind her, silent, but Daenerys Targaryen could feel his presence like a steady weight. She did not need to look back to know he had seen. He always saw. As the food was distributed and the crowd's tension loosened into cautious movement, Daenerys Targaryen felt something shift. Not love, not devotion, but the beginning of a different story. A queen who brought dragons had chosen not to use them. A queen who could have taken had offered. Jon Snow stepped closer to Daenerys Targaryen, voice low. They'll remember this, Jon Snow said. Daenerys Targaryen stared at the northern faces, at the way hunger softened fear. They should, Daenerys Targaryen said. So should Cersei Lannister. Far above the harbor, the sky remained gray and cold, uncaring. But on the docks, among frightened people and hard choices, Daenerys Targaryen felt the shape of rule changing beneath her feet. The road to Winterfell was a white ribbon cut through a world of gray. Snow lay in drifts along the edges, packed hard where carts had passed.
Frost kløng to bare branches like tin bone.
The wind carried a smell Daenerys Targaryen did not know how to name. Cold earth, pine, smoke that lingered because air was too heavy to lift it away. Each breath felt sharper than the last, as if winter wanted to carve its presence into lungs. Daenerys Targaryen rode wrapped in furs borrowed in White Harbor, her silver hair hidden beneath a hood. It felt like a small surrender, a queen disguising herself in northern practicality. Yet the cold did not care about crowns. It found skin anyway, biting cheeks and fingers. It made her eyes water. It made her feel alive in an uncomfortable way. Jon Snow rode ahead, his posture relaxed in a way it had never been on Dragonstone. The north sat on him like a familiar cloak. Ser Davos Seaworth rode near him, grumbling softly about frozen toes. Tyrion Lannister rode with stiff misery, his breath fogging as he cursed the concept of snow under his breath. Missandei of Noth kept her face composed, but Daenerys Targaryen saw her shiver when the wind cut through. Grey Worm rode like a statue, unbothered by cold, his discipline a shield. Aegon Targaryen rode beside Daenerys Targaryen, his gaze sweeping the landscape with a strange stillness. He looked at the north not like an invader, but like a man returning to something he had once feared. "This land does not flatter," Aegon Targaryen said softly. Daenerys Targaryen's lips pressed together. "Neither do its people," Daenerys Targaryen said. Aegon Targaryen's gaze flicked to her. "Good," Aegon Targaryen said. "Flattery is poison." They traveled through villages with houses huddled close together as if warmth could be shared by proximity. People watched them from doorways, eyes wide. Some bowed, awkwardly. Some did not. Children stared at Daenerys Targaryen's pale hair with open curiosity until mothers tugged them back, whispering warnings. Daenerys Targaryen felt those whispers like stones thrown at her back. Dragon, witch, foreign.
Danger.
She kept riding anyway. When Winterfell finally appeared, it rose from the snow like an old beast. Stone walls dark against white ground, towers jutting up into gray sky, smoke rising from chimneys in stubborn threads. The sight tightened Daenerys Targaryen's chest. Not with awe, but with the sudden, sharp realization that this place had endured wars and winters long before she was born. It did not need her. It would survive her, too. The gates were open, but the courtyard beyond held soldiers. Northern men in thick cloaks, their faces hard, their hands near weapons. They watched the arriving party with suspicion sharpened by old wounds. At the center of the yard stood Sansa Stark. She was taller than Daenerys Targaryen expected, her red hair braided back, her blue-gray eyes cold and steady. She wore furs like armor, her posture straight. She looked at Jon Snow first, and something softened in her expression. Relief, worry, love held tight behind duty. Then Sansa Stark's gaze shifted to Daenerys Targaryen. The softness vanished. Daenerys Targaryen dismounted, boots sinking slightly into packed snow. Cold struck through leather, biting her feet. She did not flinch. She could feel every eye on her, weighing, judging, waiting for her to prove the worst stories true. Sansa Stark stepped forward. "Daenerys Targaryen," Sansa Stark said. The name was not greeting. It was assessment. Daenerys Targaryen lifted her chin. "Sansa Stark," Daenerys Targaryen said. The silence between them was thick as snow. It held everything unsaid. Northern dead, southern crowns, betrayals, blood. Jon Snow stepped between them slightly, not blocking, but bridging. "She came," Jon Snow said, voice rough. "She listened." Sansa Stark's gaze did not leave Daenerys Targaryen. "I see that," Sansa Stark said. "I also see dragons in our sky." Her voice hardened. "And I see a queen who believes this land belongs to her." Daenerys Targaryen felt heat flare despite the cold. The instinct rose. Demand respect. Demand kneeling. Demand obedience. Aegon Targaryen's voice came quietly at her back. "Do not grasp," Aegon Targaryen murmured. Daenerys Targaryen inhaled slowly, tasting cold air like metal. She forced her hands to unclench. "I believe," Daenerys Targaryen said, choosing each word, "that this land belongs to its people." She paused, letting the statement settle. "I also believe the dead do not care who claims what." Sansa Stark's eyes narrowed. She had expected arrogance. She had expected threat. She had not expected restraint. "You did not ask me to kneel," Sansa Stark said, suspicion sharpened by surprise. Daenerys Targaryen's jaw tightened, then eased. "Not today," Daenerys Targaryen said. "Today I am here to learn." A murmur ran through the northern soldiers. Learning sounded like weakness. It also sounded like truth. Sansa Stark's gaze flicked past Daenerys Targaryen to Aegon Targaryen, and for the first time Sansa Stark's composure cracked. Her eyes widened slightly, not with fear, but with something stranger. Recognition of impossibility. "Who is that?" Sansa Stark asked, voice sharp. Daenerys Targaryen hesitated. Tyrion Lannister shifted, discomfort written on his face. Jon Snow's jaw tightened, as if bracing for another impossible revelation. Aegon Targaryen stepped forward, slow and deliberate. The cold did not seem to touch him. He looked at Winterfell's walls as if he had seen them before in flame-lit dreams. "Aegon Targaryen said. The yard went still. Sansa Stark stared at him as if he were a corpse that had stood up. "That's not possible," Sansa Stark said. "Yet here I stand," Aegon Targaryen said, voice calm. From the far side of the courtyard, a figure appeared. Bran Stark, seated, his eyes distant, his face too calm for a boy in a castle.
"Man pushai."
Chair forward gently. He rolled into the yard as if drawn by something unseen. Bran Stark's gaze lifted, and his eyes fixed on Aegon Targaryen. For a heartbeat, Bran Stark's expression shifted. Not surprise, not fear, but recognition so deep it looked like sorrow. "You're not where you belong," Bran Stark said softly. Aegon Targaryen's gaze sharpened. "Neither are you," Aegon Targaryen replied. The air in the courtyard felt charged, as if the cold itself had become aware. Daenerys Targaryen's skin prickled. She looked between Bran Stark and Aegon Targaryen, feeling suddenly small in a conversation that moved beyond crowns. Jon Snow stepped closer to Bran Stark, voice low. "Bran," Jon Snow said, tell them what you saw." Bran Stark's gaze remained on Aegon Targaryen for a long, silent moment. Then Bran Stark's eyes shifted to Daenerys Targaryen, and Daenerys Targaryen felt the boys look like ice against her skin. "The dead are moving," Bran Stark said. "They are close, closer than you think." A hush fell. Sansa Stark's face tightened, fear flickering. Northern soldiers shifted, hands tightening on weapons. Daenerys Targaryen swallowed, her breath fogging. She looked at the snow underfoot, at the hard faces around her, at the old walls that had stood through countless winters. This was not a court where she could command love with fire. This was a place that demanded proof, demanded endurance. Daenerys Targaryen lifted her chin. "Then show me," Daenerys Targaryen said, voice steady. "Show me the enemy, and I will show you what I choose to be." Aegon Targaryen's gaze met hers, and for a moment, in the cold air of Winterfell's yard, Daenerys Targaryen felt something settle inside her, an understanding as sharp as frost. Ruling without fear did not mean feeling nothing. It meant walking into the cold anyway, letting the realm see her shiver, and refusing to let the shiver become fire.